has the resources around him
and
for
we're really
medical
overplaying
care.
it. And
President Biden has said he wishes to speak to Donald Trump.
Which is like a reset.
No.
A reset for me and a reset for my idea of feminine
Medical
divine.
facility, his son Don
And,
Jr. weighing in,
it's a
saying
whole
his dad
different
is
world
in
we
great
go to
spirits.
after
Let's
this.
go right to Richard Goldinger.
Okay, so let me read what Trump just said.
We wanted to open this
Speaking.
video
Listen closely
making
also
it
to the
look like a
sound
super
of the
high
gunshots
gloss
and
pop
what's
star
heard in the
video.
moments
And
right
that's what it
after
is.
that until he is rushed into the car. Here it is.
A little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and
Whatever.
This is a sad day in American history. At no point should a politician be shot in America. Today, Donald Trump was shot in the upper part of his right ear, narrowly missing his head. This is an assassination attempt against Donald Trump. In this video, I'm going to break down a full reconstruction of everything using the information that we have available at this time. Note, this is a very developing situation, so there could be more updates that come out. I have also posted a map on X of what I believe to be, which we'll explain in this video, the trajectory of the shooting, where the president was standing, where the victims were, and more information that is coming through as we're covering this. Let's though start with the actual event and the shooting. Here it is. Now, there are going to be a few things to pay attention to. First, I want you to pay attention to the lighter, tinny popping. We believe that is a lower caliber rifle that was used by a shooter on a rooftop of right behind the security perimeter of the event. Again, when you look at realmeatkevin.com at this sort of map that I drew here, we know a shooter, or believe a shooter, climbed to the top of this rooftop, was not immediately visible from the Secret Service, which was positioned on top of this rooftop. We had counter snipers on this rooftop. We had people yelling at police over here that somebody with a rifle was climbing to the top of this building. And the Secret Service may not have been able to see the shooter until it was too late. But in the shooting that you're about to see, you're going to hear a lighter tinny pop, 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 followed by what sounds like a higher caliber bang with maybe an echo. We believe that was the counter shot from the Secret Service sniper team that then took out the shooter at the top of the building. I want to be clear, this is a disgusting failure on the part of the Secret Service. That one of the closest buildings to where the president was standing was not covered in this event.
Doesn't make sense. How do you even know that?
Even if Donald Trump, frankly, had protective glass in front of him, like he did during the January 6th speech he gave, he had protective glass in front of him. This shot came from a side angle. It's unclear that that this sort of glass would have protected him. Let's go ahead and play it. Here we go. Oh, why can't it spacebar? Oh my God.
chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's sad, take a look at what happened.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to the spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready.
We ready?
Shooter's down. Shooter's down.
Are we good? Shooter's down. Are we good to move?
Shooter's down. We're good to move.
Clear.
We're
Let's
clear.
move.
We're
Let's
clear.
move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay. Put your shoes down. Get the shoes.
My
Watch out.
This is where Trump appears to be chanting, fight, 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 and the rally erupts into a crowd right here. A few things to note in that clip there. When they say Hawkeye is here, they're referring to the tactical detail responding. You can actually hear shooter down, clear. This is when they say, okay, let's move. Donald Trump stands up. He says, let me get my shoes. We're not entirely clear if that's some kind of code word or if he was legitimately concerned about his shoes, but he did ask for his shoes. And this is a very obviously dramatic video here. You got a lot of people over here with their, showing middle fingers to the press stand and the camera, very angrily screaming F you and flipping off either the cameras or as a way of saying to the shooter, F you. Donald Trump gets into his vehicle. We don't actually get an angle in this particular video, which is fine. We'll put it together. I've got another angle of it. But I want to also just go back for a moment. Listen again very close. Oh, yeah, here's the shot of him walking to his vehicle. We'll go back for a moment so you can listen to the shots where you hear the counter shots from the sniper team. I'll show you where the sniper team was positioned so you can see this a little bit more clearly. And we have a video of that sniper team reacting to the shot. Okay, we're going to flip over to that video now. Here is that video of the sniper team positioned on the building right behind Donald Trump. You can actually see that two of the counter sniper units are positioned in the direction of where we think the shooting came from. Now, we have an understanding based on a BBC interview of and some phone video of where the shooter was, that they may have been pre-alerted that the shooter or that somebody was prepared to shoot at Donald Trump. And take a look at this video. Now, it's not the best because unfortunately, the person with the camera rotates away. There's also an image now coming through that potentially Donald Trump was also shot in the chest and that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Now, this is news just as I'm putting a summary together here that's coming through. Take a look at this. This image here says, Trump just started wearing a bulletproof vest as advised by his security detail. It saved his life. He took a shot to the chest. Damn. Now, it's unclear if this is real, if this was edited in, or what this is.
This could be fake.
But it is possible that Donald Trump was shot multiple times and that a bulletproof vest protected his life. In this image here, you're going to see what appears to be the Secret Service bobbing back. I do not believe, although I could be wrong, I do not believe that the Secret Service is bobbing back because they're taking a shot. I believe they're actually stunned and surprised that there's actually a shooting taking place, reiterating this lack of preparedness and the failure by the Secret Service here. The reason I believe this isn't a counter shot is because when you listen closely at the shots, the second set of shots are immediately followed by what appears to be a higher caliber rifle responding to the threat and taking out the threat. Let's listen to this video here.
Took over, and look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
This is just, sorry, this was not the angle that shows the Secret Service jolting. You're actually going to see that in this angle, but that was just another image to see or another viewpoint. This is the angle where you'll see the Secret Service sort of jolt back a bit. Right here is where you want to pay attention to. Now, keep an eye on this water tower. I'm going to go back to the map in a moment, but you got the water tower here. The shots are coming from back here, past these trees, across this stand right here. You're going to see on social media that an individual was dragged out of the stands. We don't believe that was the shooter. This person was actually shot in the head, and you're going to hear from an ER doctor in a moment who responded to this victim right here in the stands. So the shot appears to have gone across this direction, shoots Trump in the ear, potentially also in a bulletproof vest. And again, here you can see the counter snipers, and you see them jolt back, in my opinion, out of shock that shooting is happening. And then listen closely. You'll have to replay it a few times, I think. Listen closely, not to the first pop, 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 but the second pop, 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 boom. That's where the counter shot took place, in my opinion. Listen in. You can play it back to hear it again closely.
Something that said, take a look at what happened. Oh.
Boom, there it is. I'll play it back one more time
Months
so you
old,
can see
and
the jolt.
if you
Watch
want to
here for the
really
jolt.
see something that said, take a look at what happened. Oh.
So again, I believe you had 3 shots fired from the shooter. The Secret Service sort of jolts like, oh my gosh, like we're getting shot at. Then they hone in and you hear 3 more shots, pop, 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 and then you hear the ba-boom, which is probably shot from like a 50 cal Barrett, or whatever, sniper rifle, and then an echo from that shot. It's my belief, again, the things that I could be saying, that I'm saying could be wrong.
Trust
I'm obviously not in the Secret Service. I'm just
You
trying
don't
to.
even want to know what a 50 caliber sound like. That's a 50. Man, y'all boys, a 50 caliber sound like boom. That's how a 50 caliber sound like. Boom! It would not even hit his ear. That close, the nigga, a 50 caliber, that close to that man's ear, would have blew his head off. Would have blew his head off. That's how, just even close to his ear, it would have blew his head off.
To do my best
I
to
don't think y'all understand what a 50 cal is. The air surrounding the bullet is going to explode your head.
piece this together.
It don't have to hit you directly.
Now, an important thing to piece together out of all of this also is that view that you get
The fact
of
that it was a small bullet too saved his life. The fucking shooter is listen, the shooter, thank God the shooter was an complete amateur. Complete amateur. But it also shows you how the fuck was that place not surrounded? How is that possible? Was this fake? Cause listen, bro. Listen, I understand we're talking about local police, nigga. We're talking about secret security. Like, they don't make mistakes like this. How that obvious? The building across from the fucking venue, that building. That's crazy. I don't even know what's more crazy. The fact that that happened or the fact that he missed. Bro, God saved Trump's life. How in the fuck did this guy miss an obvious shot like that? I'm thinking, all right, if that nigga missed, remember what I told y'all? That nigga must have been miles away. Because no professional would miss that close. Or it must have been a handgun. Nah, that nigga was right in the front of the stadium. And you'd be like, what? And nobody could see him? Even the people telling the officers they could see him? I don't know, man. This story sounds... We got to listen more to this story. I don't want to be one of those conspiracy guys. But, like, what happened? How? Can someone tell me how that happened? Listen, look. Let's go back. Just so y'all know I'm crazy. Because I was watching the whole time. So you're telling me the venue is...
where the president was standing, where the victims were, and more information that is coming through as we're covering this. Let's though start everything using the information that we have available at his head. This is an assassination attempt against Donald Trump. In this video, I'm going to break down a full reconstruction of everything using the information that we have available at this time. Lines with the video we just saw. There were no buildings to the right. There were no windows on the right. You had a window, a door, and the shooter's body appeared to be right here where my mouse is. The cell phone footage appeared to have been taken from the left side of this tree right here.
God damn,
His
cell
head was
phones
blown
people always catch. There's just too many people. There's too many cameras. Everybody got cameras, bro.
off. I want you to see this map
Somebody's
right here.
gonna see you.
This is what I posted on X. So this is approximately 506 Evans City Road in Butler, Pennsylvania. We believe Donald Trump's positioning was right about here where I've placed this pin. Now this is important. Watch me zoom in on this building right here.
You see what I'm trying to say?
See the door?
Yeah, come on. Man.
See the window? It's the sloped building at the end of 506 Evans City
look at this.
Road in Butler, Pennsylvania. We believe Donald Trump's positioning was right about here where I've placed this pin. Now this is important. Watch me zoom in on this building right here. See the door? See the window? It's the sloped building at the end of the row of buildings, which aligns with the video we just saw. There were no buildings to the right. There were no windows on the right. You had a window, a door. You saw the window. You saw the door. You hear the person
And there's
saying,
the
I think
shooter.
they hit him. In a BBC interview, we actually insane. But anyway, watch this, and you could hear.
Right side broad.
Sorry, you could hear the person describe what they're seeing. I just need to pause this other vid. There
Why
we
is
go.
everybody just watching it?
Mind blowing, or like
is
some
it?
staff covering this rooftop. Insane. But anyway, watch this
Hold on.
window. The person, see him being handcuffed right here. So you've got three, looks like two officers and two
Handcuffed?
that was
nigga is
deemed to
dead.
be the shooter. So that shot is pretty impactful. This, by the way, I'm going to put on screen is a photo of the aftermath of that shooter being cuffed. You could see him being handcuffed right here. So you've got three, looks like two officers and two, National Guardsmen or whatever from the security detail here on the roof with that individual.
Nah, they quick though. They are quick. They shot that nigga. That nigga. Thank God Donald Trump survived. Oh my God, y'all. This could have ended badly. Y'all don't understand, bro. This is dangerous territory, y'all. I keep on trying to tell y'all. We in a fragile state in the country. The last thing we need is more friction, bro. We're inches away from World War III. Do y'all notice that? Shit like this. Oh my God, fam. This could have been horrible, bro. Wow. Y'all see this shit? Do y'all see this shit?
Of that shooter being cuffed. You could see him being handcuffed right here. So you've got three of that individual person on the rooftop that was deemed to be the shooter. So that shot is pretty impactful. This, by the way, I'm going to put on screen is a photo of the aftermath of that shooter being cuffed. You could see him being handcuffed right
Why do they cuff dead bodies? I don't know what's up with that.
here. So you've got three,
maybe it was still moving.
looks like two officers and two, National Guardsmen or whatever from the security detail here on the roof with that individual. And the actual footage that somebody zooms in on, very useful, is right here. Now, what I want you to pay attention to here is a door right here and then a window on the left right here. So
He might have been in there for days. He might have been in there for. This is what I'm trying to say. It's a plot. How the fuck did he know that one was gonna be empty? Nigga, it's a plot. This is inside shit. He had inside information. Damn. this was a plot. A failed plot. Who plotted it? Ooh, it's getting deep. Chat, it's a plot. On stream. On Stay Woke TV. Live in effect. They just tried to kill Donald Trump. Messed up part is the stream's not even working right. I don't know how they fucking... It's almost like the fucking stream knew this was going to happen today.
Door.
I can't see this chat. But we still streaming. That shit crazy than a motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie.
Window. The person who is shot, who appears to be the shooter, is on this side.
I can't see nobody's chat. I'm just stuck here like, damn. They just trying to kill that nigga Trump.
The fact that a building this close didn't have a counter sniper here is mind-blowing. Or like some staff covering this rooftop. Insane. But anyway, watch this and you can hear...
right side broad.
Sorry, you could hear the person describe what they're seeing. I just need to pause this little bit.
Can
there
we
go.
get the first shots? Did he get the first shot?
Lá em cima, né? Aqui, ó. We can see the guy there. I think they hit him because the guy he looks dead. Lá em cima.
Okay, you saw the window, you saw the door, you hear the person saying, I think they hit him. In a BBC interview, we actually hear somebody saying that his head was blown off.
Damn.
I want you to see this map right here. This is what I posted on X.
He got hit by.
So this is approximately 506 Evans City Road in Butler, Pennsylvania. We believe Donald Trump's positioning was right about here where I've placed this pin. Now this is important.
This guy must have been the worst shooter of all time. This to here, imagine a sniper missing this wide open shot. And imagine, actually, nah, that's too close. How in the fuck did y'all not find this? How the hell? How is that possible? Unless you was sleeping in that motherfucker for days. But even then, how in the fuck do y'all not see that?
Watch me zoom in on this building right here. See the door? See the window? It's the sloped building at the end of the row of buildings, which aligns with the video we just saw. There were no buildings to the right. There were no windows on the right. You had a window, a door, and the shooter's body appeared to be right here where my mouse is. The cell phone footage appeared to have been taken from the left side of this tree right here, since you saw a tree to the right of them. All right, look at this. Tree to the right of them, no buildings on the right, door, no objects on the side of this building, and then a window right here under where they zoom in. There it is, the window. So we believe we have the correct trajectory here. Now, why is this important? Because when you actually look at this, this is the setup. Press box 1, straight shot on Donald Trump. Press box 2, wide shot. That's the shot I showed you where you could see the Secret Service agents here,
right here,
where you could see where the victim is, the stands on the left.
Dude had balls too. He was going in. He knew. He had to know
That would
security
be,
was right across.
if I go back on the right side broadcasting, that would be right here. This is where Donald Trump is. There are the Secret Service folks. Here is where the victim was, to the left of that sign. Okay, there's the water tower. Why is that water tower important? Watch. The water tower, right here. Trump speaking here. Press box here. You could see the water tower. You could see the water tower. Press box 2 has a view of the water tower. There's the water tower. So again, Trump, shooter. Insane that the Secret Service wasn't covering that angle. Now, again, going to, we've got a few interviews to cover, but going back to my map quickly, look at that exact trajectory. Well, I mean, my estimated version. Here's where the phone video was.
If this doesn't say Biden got to get out of the race, nothing will.
The phone video, honestly, I think was back here because you do see some more trees in front to the left of them. So I think they had a tree over here to their right. They're kind of under the shade. It was a hot day. So you had the phone video zoomed in directly onto that wall. Press box 1, press box 2. Press box 2 sees the water tower above here. Trump's here. Here's the shooter's trajectory. Here's where the victims hit in the head. And this is a very, very sad 47 seconds here. But this person's a hero right here. This man gave mouth-to-mouth CPR to a person with a hole in their head. This person is a hero. True American hero. I want you to listen to this.
Honor, that's exactly where I heard him come from.
What did you see, sir?
I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over.
Who shot him?
I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around, was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him.
It was a phone?
So I got people there really helpful. I got
Was there
him
only
up
one
on the
person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions as well as I breathed for him.
One person.
I was the only one that did it.
need to evacuate everybody.
Honor, that's exactly where.
So you just heard an ER doctor here say he administered CPR and gave oral breaths to the victim in the stands. I want to be clear, that is the victim that was killed. There was one person in the stands that was sort of dragged out by his boots. I want to be clear, that is not what appears to be the shooter. Okay, so this video, you're going to see it on social media. This is not expected to be the shooter. This is the person who was shot in the head, and you don't really see anything here. There's not much anything graphic. You just see sort of his arm, and he's getting.
Tell it's not the shooter because they don't have their guns out, and it's not the SWAT team taking them out. This guy's a victim.
Carried to medical attention to a medical tent behind. I don't actually know if you could see that ER doctor who was just talking. It doesn't look like you can really see him in the shot there. But you're going to see that on social media suggesting that maybe that was the shooter. We do not believe that was the shooter. There are some allegations. These are unconfirmed that this person, I'm not going to speculate on who the shooter is yet. I'm going to instead play this video clip. And Lauren brought me some pizza, so I'm taking a snack of it because I've been streaming for almost 3 hours now. Listen to this, and this is a pretty wild interview. The Secret Service did also just release a statement. The suspected shooter fired multiple shots at a Trump rally. Person was neutralized. Personnel neutralized the shooter. Suspected shooter fired from a position outside the rally venue. One spectator was killed, being shot in the head. 2 were critically injured. A suspect shooter is deceased. Trump is safe, evaluated and transported to a local medical facility. New York police and police around the country are increasing security for Trump's family and himself everywhere he's going. Trump did also post on Truth Social that he had been shot. Nothing is known at the time about the shooter, who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I had heard a whizzing sound. Shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place. Keep in mind also that when Donald Trump stands up, which could accelerate this idea that Trump was potentially shot in a bulletproof vest as well. When Donald Trump stands up, it looks like his shirt is more unbuttoned. And he did go up with an unbuttoned shirt because it was a hot rally. But when he stands up, it looks like some more buttons of his shirt are unbuttoned. Maybe they went to check to see if there was any piercing. See, look at that. It looks like at least maybe one more button there was unbuttoned to maybe potentially check. Who knows? Again, it's not clear that he was also shot in a bulletproof vest or whatever. That's unclear. It's speculation at this point. Okay, so, but what I wanted to show was this BBC interview, and this reporter is not the best.
Man, Trump know the excitement. Did he set this up? Motherfucker, it was too good. This nigga is going to be the president. It's funny how I was saying there was no chance. It's over. It's over with, fam. It's over with.
But, maybe he's shocked or something, but let's listen in.
Someone who was here, you weren't inside the event, nope, but you were just outside. Tell us what you saw.
So we had a party here all day. You can see behind us at the Brinkles Farming Greenhouse here. We had a party. And we all decided, hey, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees up there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally, right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here, I have no idea, but we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, and, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for,
Just a quick note. If somebody's yelling at cops, going, there's a man with a rifle climbing on a building, the reaction from the officer should not be, huh? It should be like,
let me go see what's going on.
Dispatch reports of man with rifle climbing to building, get
crazy.
Trump off stage. Which should then immediately be rallied. I don't think the police are on the same radio channel as the Secret Service, but they should be. Usually what happened at these details, when I was a law enforcement explorer for 3 years, usually we would go to a secondary or tertiary channel, so that way we were all on the same channel. So the officer should be able to move to, let's say channel A is the main channel, everybody's on the main channel, that's for emergency radio dispatch for all the stuff going on in the city, right? You should be able to go to like channel C, and that would usually be like an event channel. So don't go to channel C.
I can see how they missed him, though. There's a lot of trees there. But it's right in the front. There's no way I could see him getting up there. And nobody seeing him.
With rifle climbing to roof, to the, northwest of Trump, should have immediately gone over the radio. Which the snipers should have heard that. And I assume they did because both of them were facing in that direction, but it's possible they didn't see anything. But nonetheless, just that report alone should have been enough to get Trump off the stage and assess the situation. Somebody's yelling gun at an event with a former president running for a presidency now. Take him off the stage, check the roof. Okay, I don't think at every rally there's some
the roof, bro. Let's be serious. There should be officers on all the roofs. That's the whole point. Y'all not getting it. Something went wrong totally. Not one roof. There should be at least 3 officers on every roof. Every roof where you could see. How the fact that there's no officers on every single roof. It's like, how the fuck? Something. There was either a complete incompetence. And how did the shooter know that roof was going to be completely have nobody there? Like, it's crazy.
Knucklehead going, there's someone with a gun. Like, I think you should take that as a credible threat. And you should remove the president from any danger until it can be clear. Now, some folks in the comments are saying, call 911 or whatever. This individual was yelling at a police officer, which is way faster than calling 911. Remember, when you call 911, it goes usually to a statewide dispatch center. The statewide dispatch center, to even get virality
I don't know what to say, man. All I'll tell you is, you know, if I walked up close to there with anything that Secret Service considered a problem, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. But I don't know why a guy who we're standing there pointing out to police and Secret Service is crawling up the roof.
Were you outside the security perimeter?
Yes, right there by that tree. We were outside the security perimeter. But my question is, there's only a few buildings around here. Why is Secret Service not at every building here?
Well, there's a whole bunch of questions I think that are going to come.
There's a whole bunch of questions.
Isn't that obvious? Isn't that obvious? Isn't that obvious? Isn't that obvious? Can I imagine risking people's life and every building don't have people on it? Nigga, you could not even dare be in a building. Matter of fact, every room has to be, if they were in a hotel, across the hotel, every hotel room, there can be nobody in there. Think about that shit. The fact that there's just, that's crazy. It's going to go down in history or something now.
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
Trump flying on the horse?
Yes, she was right in front of me. She kept going back and forth right in front of me. Yes.
Tell us about her.
I mean, nice horse, nice lady running with a flag. Seemed very, you know, patriotic.
All right, we're gonna pull off this here. So as you can see, this was an interview, pretty damning interview of the security failure that occurred. You get a little bit of a side view angle here. They finally rotate the camera to the right. I do want to point out that when they rotate this camera to the right, I believe that's the building across this yellow road. Though I'm not certain about that. If he's pointing at this, it's a little hard to pinpoint exactly where these things are. Something else that just came through. There's a photo showing a potential bullet flying past Donald Trump. This could have been the bullet that grazed Donald Trump right here. How insane is that? I don't know. Sometimes like stuff like this can get edited in. You know, I mean, all the JPEG compression, you know, looks relatively consistent with what you would expect. You know, the ISO kind of graininess here. I don't know if that's edited in. I don't know if that's baloney or what, but whatever. So this, by the way, this is it's graphic, but here's blood from likely where the victim was shot in the head, which is where the ER doctor went in to provide emergency resuscitation and CPR and mouth to mouth. Something else to pay attention to is this is something that has been predicted by some folks, and people have, you know, made fun of, for example, Tucker Carlson for predicting this. But let's listen to this for a moment.
What do you think the future holds? Is it?
I don't know.
I mean, are they going to let Trump be president?
No, of course. I mean, look, if, you know, they protested him, they called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work. What's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can't reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like,
there it is. We're speeding towards assassination, says Tucker Carlson. And this is exactly the attempt that we just saw. Another thing that is disturbing, I understand, you know, the speech writing of this probably has no real reference to actually shooting somebody, but it's worth noting the following. Politico, 5 days ago, had an exclusive piece about what Biden told donors. And this is very inconvenient timing for Biden, but some folks are looking at this arguing this is an unacceptable signal. Quote, "I have one job, and that's to beat Donald Trump. I'm absolutely certain I'm the best person to be able to do that. So we're talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye." That was then described as a forceful message from Biden, as covered by Politico. Now, a little bit of a foot in mouth. Doesn't look very good at all. We also want to make it clear that there are a lot of different sort of maps or simulations or whatever going on, circulating about what may have happened in terms of where the shooter was or the shooter's positioning or whatever. For example, here's another account that posted where they think the shooter is. Again, I replied to this and said wrong roof. I think my image is much more accurate. They weren't on a white roof. They were on an angled slope of the roof. We have pretty clear phone video of where that shooter lay. So it does. I'm not trying to say that my image is perfect. I'm sure there's some errors here as well. But if you wanted to share this, just follow me at RealMeatKevin on X, and you could retweet this. You're also welcome. Just take a screenshot of it if you want. Go draw your own. I don't really care. I just want people to have the most information possible. But this is a very sad day in American history. I want to talk a little bit about what I think the impacts of this are going to be. I think this helps the Donald Trump campaign. Now, I'm not trying to be insensitive to the idea that Donald Trump was just nearly killed. I'm not trying to look at this about, think about donations or votes or whatever. But let's be clear. When there's an attempted assassination on your candidate that you are supporting, you become more supportive of that candidate. I suspect that people who maybe weren't going to get out on election night because they thought their vote didn't matter, I think now are going to want even more so to be a part of history and vote for their candidate that almost got assassinated. I think there are also people who might not have voted at all that decide, I'm going to go vote. I also think that donations are going to rapidly increase for the Trump campaign. And you actually see predicted sort of data here suggesting Donald Trump has increased about 7 percentage points after the shooting in odds of winning the election. With Kamala and Biden going down. There are also some rumors that maybe teleprompter glass scratched Donald Trump and led to some bleeding. I don't think that's true. Based on the video here, where Donald Trump cheers fist up, I could clearly see the teleprompter on the left and right in pretty clearly put together condition. Obviously, Donald Trump was just released from the hospital. Just got that update just moments ago. There are also very dramatic photos that are now circulating of Donald Trump being led off of the stage. Here's one that was shared by Tucker Carlson. There's been an outpouring of reaction and support across the community. Elon Musk officially endorsed Donald Trump for president. Elon Musk has reportedly also donated to Donald Trump's super PAC after stating that he would not donate to any presidential candidate. It looks like he has changed his mind, which I think you have the right to change your mind. If anybody knows, I change my mind sometimes. Those of you in my course member group, you can learn more about that at meetkevin.com. You know that we cover my opinions on the market every single day. Live at the the Market Live channel. You could watch me live every day. The market is open at 5:25 a.m. California time. I cover the market and market news every morning there for free. And right after that, we go into the course member live stream where we answer course member questions and deal with other fundamental analysis and otherwise. You're welcome to join us there. Go to meetkevin.com to learn more for that. It does look like Donald Trump released from hospital after the shooting. Looks like we have some footage of his motorcade leaving the hospital, and he is expected to speak in Denver tonight at a UFC event. So it looks like he's going to be getting right back to work after being shot. This is footage here of Trump's motorcade leaving with a lot more police presence this time. Oh, that could be just the angles of the lighting that I'm seeing. That might be the similar motorcade he usually has. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Disgusting for someone with opinions that don't align with Trump to go as far as trying to take his life. Obviously, the shooter now being dead. But this is a very clear assault on democracy. It's sad. It's a bad day. Donald Trump was grazed. Reports that maybe a bulletproof vest stopped an additional bullet to his chest. One attendee is dead in the bleachers, who was apparently shot in the head. We saw the footage of an ER doctor trying to provide medical response to save the individual. 1 to 2 other individuals apparently in critical condition who were attendees at the event. There were metal detectors at the event, but this shooter appeared to have responded from outside of the event. It looks like Donald Trump is now heading to the airport, likely to get to the Denver event. I expect there will be some form of statement from Trump at the Denver event. We already saw his Truth Social post. The Biden campaign is also pausing attack ads against Donald Trump out of respect for the fact that he was just shot, which is understandable. And wow, this is a shocking and historic day of what we're seeing here. Now I have another graphic that I want to show that is pretty decent. I like this one. Mine's kind of chicken scratchy. I threw it up on an iPad while being live. This is another version. It's from a slightly different angle. The example I gave showed the buildings on the left, so you have to sort of rotate your mind about 90 degrees here. This is the wrong building, by the way. This is the incorrect picture. So I know this picture I expect to be wrong. This being this building. Yes, this could be this building. That's fair. But the shooter, I agree, the shooter was in this position. About 125-ish meters is the expectation to Trump's approximate location, and then where the Secret Service snipers were. That roughly aligns, I think I'm in agreement with this, roughly aligns with what we drew with my chicken scratch, which again, you could retweet here if you'd like. This was the phone video we saw showing the building here. I think the image they showed was here, like a street view image, because I was looking at Google Street View of this as well, but the actual shooter's building is blocked by that. Secret Service snipers up here. Trump stands where the victim was, with again that angle of the shot. Very, very dramatic day. It's an assault on American democracy. And I suppose I would be not myself if I didn't mention that if you're ever motivated to get the same life insurance that Lauren and I have, just go to metkevin.com/life. It's a paid partner of the channel. It's affiliate. metkevin.com/life. You can sign up in as little as 5 minutes for life insurance. And you can Apple Pay or Android Pay for it. So that does it for the summary of what just happened at the Trump event.
Not advertise these things that you told us here. I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is not personalized advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show shall not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF. I may personally hold or otherwise hold long or short positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuer other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. Make sure if you're considering investing in HouseHack to always read the PPM at househack.com.
This is the Asia Trade. I'm Sherian in Tokyo.
And I'm Heidi Stroud-Watts. Your top stories this hour. Asian stocks are set for a weaker open despite Wall Street notching its longest winning run since January. Jay Powell's comments to Congress backing bets on rate cuts this year.
Japan's biggest lender is calling on the BOJ to make deep cuts to its bond buying as the central bank tiptoes toward normalizing policy.
And Temasek's investments in China fall below the Americas for the first time in at least a decade. We get the outlook from the Singapore Fund's CIO. But first up, we do have South Korea labour market numbers just coming through and bang in line with expectations. The jobless rate adjusted is being held at 2.8%. That was largely the market consensus there as well, between 2.8 to 2.9%. The jobless rate coming in at 2.8%, 96,000 jobs there being added in June from a year earlier. Labour force participation at 65.3% in June. We also saw the population over the age of 15 increasing just under 0.5% from a year ago. And so this has really seen a little bit of softening in June for this labour market, still below the average since 2020. And interestingly, the reality is that the current levels we're seeing when it comes to the labour market in South Korea reflecting the effect that is too small to move the dial when it comes to the BOK.
Yeah, we'll be watching that rate decision later in the week. But of course, it's really all about the labour market, isn't it? Because it was really those comments from Chair Powell in congressional testimony that sent investors cheering. He did stick to his mantra of, you don't want to really cut too fast because then you could really spur inflation even more. So that stayed the same. But it was his comments about elevated rates and what it could do to the economy that caught investors' attention. Take a listen.
The labor market appears to be fully back in balance. The most recent labor market data do send, to your point, a pretty clear signal that labor market conditions have cooled considerably compared to where they were 2 years ago. This is no longer an overheated economy. This is an economy, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, that is more or less back by most measures to where it was before the pandemic. And that was a strong labor market, but it was not an overheated labor market.
Yeah, not surprising given that we heard the soft labor data that we got last week. 3 months of the unemployment rate just increasing.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the subtle but important shift in terms of how Fed Chair Powell really characterised the labour market, right? Because they've long cited this overheated market as a primary risk to bringing inflation down. That narrative seems to have changed a bit. And take a listen to what he had to say when it comes to the timing of future rate cuts.
I'm today not going to be sending any signals about the timing of any future actions. It doesn't seem likely that the next policy move would be a rate increase. We don't take things like that off the table, but that does not seem the likely direction. The likely direction does seem to be in, as we make more progress in inflation and as the labor market remains strong, we begin to loosen policy at the right moment.
Yeah, take a look at how U.S. futures are trading because we saw another session of gains for Wall Street. We, of course, have seen 6 sessions of gains already. So another record high. The S&P 500 futures right now not really doing much, but this, of course, after we saw 6 sessions of gains, which is the longest winning streak since January. And I was really watching the financial sector because those shares led the gains. Chair Powell also talking about regulators getting close to agreeing on to those changes when it comes to big banks holding significantly more capital. We are expecting those changes to be a major win for Wall Street lenders. Treasuries were a little bit mixed. The shorter-term Treasury yields falling on easing bets.
Yeah, and, as you say, what is it, the 36th straight record high for the S&P 500.
I know, I'm losing track of the count.
But it's interesting because we're also watching volatility so low at the moment, right, when it comes to the JP Morgan Volatility Index, slipping for a 5th day. We're at the lowest level since the start of June, so not a whole lot moving the dial when it comes to the amount of risk in these markets. But take a look at how we're setting up, a little bit more muted despite those record highs overnight. Sydney futures looking a little bit softer there at the moment. Chicago Nikkei futures just kind of modestly a little bit higher then. But we've been far from that stellar performance that many of the headlines of the past year would have us believe, right? We've seen nominal records being hit as a result of yen weakness, but it's very interesting in terms of how international investors in particular are looking at real returns. We're also watching China as we get into next week, of course. The plenum, we're watching for the potential for policy measures to support the economy. China futures looking a little bit softer at this point, but we could see a little bit more bond action there as well. Dollar China, 72.88 at the moment. We did have a little bit more positioning when it comes to the US dollar. But of course, the other thing we're watching, Sherry, will be the RBNZ as well. Given the extended long positioning of the Kiwi at the moment, they would really want to see that hawkish hold come through today.
It's really about the divergence in monetary policy was leading to those currency plays right now. But let's talk a little bit more about the Fed, because we saw a little bit of gains for the dollar during Chair Powell's comments overnight. Our next guest saying that the Fed will be late to rate cuts. Joining us now is Terry Spath, founder and chief investment officer at Zuma Wealth. Terry, always great to have you with us. And on your notes, you say that the Fed is getting cold feet about cutting rates. Are they sort of underestimating perhaps the policy lags and the impact that we could see about these elevated rates?
Well, hello, Sherry. Hi, Heidi. Nice to be on the show. And I mean, I think we got some nice color from the Fed today. Obviously, we got a lot of information from Jay Powell. He was pretty frank. I don't think any of it surprised the market too much. Earlier in the year, the U.S. market was way over its skis, expecting 6 to 7 cuts for the year. Now, I think the market and the Fed are a little bit more aligned. But as you mentioned, we're in the camp that the Fed will be late to cut rates, just as they were late to increasing rates. They were very late to increasing rates, it seems that the Fed feels like they're driving a speedboat. They're not driving a speedboat. They're driving the QE2. It's small changes take a very long time to take effect. And in other words, the Fed really underestimates the lags of their policy decisions. That all said, when do they pivot? It's really anyone's guess, but we do think the direction is lower when it comes to interest rates, and that's good for the U.S. stock market, and it's fine for the Treasury market.
Yeah, definitely, which is why we continue to see this ongoing rally in the U.S. market. But at the same time, although today we saw a little bit more participation when it comes to even financials leading those gains in the market, are you at all concerned about market breadth?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting question, and we've thought about it a lot. Is this market too narrow, and is that a bad sign? And I think we're not in the, consensus view that that's a problem. Most stocks are above their 200-day average, and it's actually about 50%. So that's actually a good sign. What does that mean? It means that you can see a broadening out in the stock market because there's plenty of stocks that need to catch up, but it's not as narrow as some of the headlines might suggest. It's a healthy market here in the U.S. It's a not too cold, not too hot, Cinderella type market, and we think the trend is your friend, and stick it out in the U.S. stock market.
It's interesting. There's a lot of debate when it comes to international markets, in particular the, headline-making rally that we've seen here in Japan. As an international investor, do you think we're seeing adequate weighting? Do you think the yen weakness that we've been talking about has maybe been distorting some of the gains in terms of real returns?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Japan, because I think a lot of listeners, certainly in the U.S., and a lot of investors are underinvested in Japan. And as you pointed out, the fiscal stimulus, the accommodating monetary policy, the structural economic reform that's going on in Japan, that is all translating into outstanding earnings. Deflation in Japan, which, nobody saw coming before a year or so ago. So a new view from our seat is to have exposure to Japan, at least 5% in your portfolio. If you own less than that, you're underweight Japan, you're not going to participate in those gains. You pointed out that the yen is weakening. We're not recommending necessarily hedging. We think you can participate just as well just by being exposed to some of the ETFs that represent the Japanese stock market.
What else do you like at the moment across international? Europe is interesting at the moment. I know you've got some views on that, but of course there's a great deal of uncertainty there.
Yeah, we're actually, we have no holdings in Europe right now. We don't like it. It kind of stalled out. There was a little bit of a rally earlier this year on the European stock market. Earnings are decent, valuations are fine, but the outlook from our vantage point is really weighed down by that weaker relative economic growth, relative to the U.S., relative to Japan, and some legitimate concerns about the geopolitical environment over there. The Russia-Ukraine conflict is still a major problem. There's fragmenting political viewpoints. So there's just a lot of risk that we think warrants the low valuation. So we're staying away right now from Europe, more constructive, as we pointed out, in the U.S. and on Japan.
Another market that you don't like, according to your notes, is China, and you put it as a hard no, which I do think it's sort of a bold call because you have so much FOMO when it comes to the Chinese markets. Tell us the rationale behind it, and aren't you a little bit scared of missing out?
I'm not scared of missing out, and China is a hard no. It's an underwhelming economic recovery going on in China, very weak confidence, higher probability of a Trump victory than previously believed here stateside. So a lot of the stocks in the Chinese stock market, and the Chinese stock market are dirt cheap. That does often give us pause. So we put pen to pencil, but we think that directionally things are still going negative. And so we don't like that. If we saw some sort of expectation of bottoming when it comes to growth there, we would have a different point of view, but that's not the case. Things are still getting worse. And so we think the low valuations there are warranted, and it's dead money from our point of view.
Dead money. That's a strong call, Terry. Always great to have you with us. Of course, Terry Spad, founder and Chief Investment Officer at Azuma Wealth. Coming up on the Asia Trade, the Ukraine war remains front and centre of NATO's agenda. We'll get some analysis with the University of Melbourne. Hear why Nikko Asset Management as well says we may see double-digit earnings growth in the US.
And we'll look ahead to China's consumer and factory inflation numbers for June with Goldman Sachs. This is Bloomberg. Japan's mega banks are said to be calling on the BOJ to make deep cuts to its monthly bond buying. The central bank is meeting with players in the nation's debt market as it prepares to scale down its huge purchasing program.
Yeah, our Asia economy and BOJ reporter Toru Fujioka joins us now for more. So what's, I guess, the takeaway? These meetings are ongoing, clearly, and the implications.
I think the bottom line is that BOJ didn't show any specific plan for BOJ bond buying plan going ahead. I think that was there's a possibility BOJ may indicate something, but BOJ didn't do that. So we have to keep guessing that what BOJ is going to be doing for cutting bond buying.
We keep doing the guesswork right now, right? Because last time we were like, okay, they're going to reduce debt purchases, and we didn't get any details. And even this time around, the BOJ didn't come out with nothing specific as a plan during these meetings. So what's next?
That's right. I think BOJ wanted to focus on listening to opinions from market participants. And what's next is going to be, there's another meeting coming up later today, and we're going to see what participants will say to BOJ, and BOJ will have to consider what's the best for the market.
What were the views of these mega banks? Because it was a little bit of a difference between mega banks and, say, regional banks when it comes to what they want to see from the BOJ?
That was an interesting part from the meeting. One mega bank told BOJ that BOJ should move early to make sharp cuts in bond buying, and another one said eventually BOJ should cut bond buying to 1 trillion yen from current pace of 6 trillion. So that is showing that mega banks are ready for BOJ to cut some sizable reduction in bond buying.
Speaking of guessing, do we think they're going to cut in July?
Yes, that's
hike in July. Yes.
I know they're diverging so much. We keep saying Fed rate cuts.
That's what BOJ already announced. But the question is how much and how fast BOJ is going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll continue to watch that one, given that the BOJ has really surprised us many times in the past. But how much pressure are they under, especially even with these bond purchases, because of the weakness of the yen?
That's a good question. Some analysts expect that BOJ has to make a big step in cutting bond buying to ease the pressure on the yen to weaken. But at the same time, BOJ has to think about, government debt is so huge in Japan, and if it goes up, debt servicing costs for the government will go up rapidly. That's something BOJ has to consider, and it's not only about cutting bond for the market, but there are so many factors that BOJ has to mull over.
What that just means is that Toru Fujioka will be very busy in the next month as we'll continue to watch what the BOJ does. Our Asian economy and BOJ reporter here joining us in the studio. Now, let's talk about China because it's due to release its June inflation data in a couple of hours. Our China correspondent Min Lo joins us with a preview.
Yeah, Min, so this will be key, particularly as we go into the plenum meetings next week. What are we looking out for?
Yes, well, the data is likely to look slightly upbeat in June. We're looking at an expectation for a 0.1% increase in consumer price index from the previous month. Food data looking mixed with pork prices increasing, but that's offset by declines in vegetables and food prices. But non-food data, that's pointing up, including transportation costs and recreational costs. That perhaps reflects a stronger travel demand ahead of the summer break. But when it comes to the PPI, though, that is expected to decline for the 21st consecutive month now. But the good news is expected to fall much less than the previous month, 0.8% versus 1.4% in May. And again, those early frequent indicators are showing mixed data with cement prices, for instance, falling much less now, but that is offsetting the declines in metal prices. But again, if you look at the PMI print for June, the official PMI contracted for a second straight month, and output prices as well falling in June, so that doesn't bode very well for producers' price index.
And Min, Heidi alluded to the third plenum coming up, but we have to look at the big picture and what this economic data tell us, right? So what are we expecting in the second half of the year for China?
Yeah, I think the overall underlying trend is that Beijing still needs to do a lot more to boost that lackluster demand and that uneven economic recovery. Because if you look at the year-to-date data so far for CPI, February was the only month where we broke above the 0.5% mark. And we're far, far below that official inflation target of 3%. And this is despite many rounds of government stimulus, for instance, those government incentives for people to trade in their automobiles and consumer goods as well, and government pledges to boost jobs linked to major projects, and also that property rescue plan that was introduced in May. And if you look at the factory gate prices, that has been in deflation since September 2022. I mean, that was a year when China was still in the throes of COVID and trying to shake off those curbs. And so far, we do see this moderate reflation, but that's largely driven by commodity prices rather than an increase in domestic demand.
This is a sad day in American history. At no point... Holy crap, not clickbait. Donald Trump just got shot. There's blood on him. This is crazy. And video's probably going to get taken down here, but this is breaking news. He appears to be okay. He was seen walking away from the rally with his fist up in the air, and he did have blood on what it looks like was on his ear. This is a massive, massive Secret Service failure. I don't know what the hell happened here. This is a horrible, horrible moment. This is not the way to handle any kind of dislike for Trump, to shoot at a president.
Vehicles that is
holy
driving.
crap, this is horrible.
Let him drive up the bitch. Why the fuck are we still having him do like exercise? Like, bruh, the nigga probably climbing them stairs like, fuck, I'm on a Stairmaster. This is exhausting.
Boards Air Force One again, leaving Delaware. He is returning here to Washington.
This looked like Goon You in the club. Remember that nigga like that died in like Baltimore or something? They brought the nigga's corpse to the club. Nigga, that's what this looks like. Look at this.
Turning around and giving a salute as he walks in to the plane. We are expecting a press conference in just about 15 minutes from now.
Yo, come on.
Coming up on the bottom of the hour, we will take a very brief couple-second pause for more stations to join us right now.
Bro, enough is enough, bro.
Schedule one brought out by these events where the president made a decision. We were told by sources familiar that he was at Mass earlier today when he learned of the incident involving the former president, made a decision that he wanted to speak publicly in the earliest point after he got some initial briefings, did that earlier tonight. Then as he gained more information, made the decision that he wants to leave Delaware to come back to the White House tonight. We expect he will get here sometime after midnight, likely.
Like, no disrespect, this truck with the stairs don't have to be here. Get him an elevator, bro. Like, who cares? Yo, my thing is this with like even the U.S. presidency, bro. Yo, y'all got. First of all, we know you got to be at least 35 years old to be able to run. Y'all got dudes who are 80. That's 50 years over the requirement. Why are y'all still trying to act like these guys are athletically inclined or even physically capable? Like, all y'all got to do is just be like, yo, hey, listen to them being able to, because there's nothing physical about the president of the United States. Just be like, yo, just listen to their mind, listen to what they talk about, listen to their opinions and ability to argue. That is, you know, that's what you guys should care about. Why do you still got this nigga climbing stairs? Bro, the nigga barely could even make out a sentence last time.
Around the 12:30 a.m. time, and that tomorrow it is expected he will have additional briefings with key law enforcement personnel from the Secret Service, the FBI, Homeland Security, and so forth. All the different threads of information that could give a better picture of what happened, who was involved, and what motivations may have been a part of this. He did have that personal connection with former President Trump by phone tonight after trying to reach him earlier at a time when we could presume that the former president was probably getting some medical care or just getting through the initial experience of this apparent assassination attempt and all of the turmoil associated with that. So they have now spoken and connected personally. We know additionally that the Biden campaign is saying to its own team, turn down the rhetoric, do not comment about this issue, put it on pause right now, and that the focus needs to be on bringing about calm, having some unity in the country, that we as a nation stand against political violence. Even though political violence has reared its head many times in our history, that now is a time with a heated campaign to try to turn down the rhetoric. So this could be a point where we could see some other changes in schedule. We simply don't know yet. These are fast-moving events. We're tracking each of these developments, and as we learn more, we'll bring it to you. Hallie? Kelly O'Donnell live for us there from the White House. Kelly, thank you very much. I want to bring in Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Muser, who was at today's rally. He is joining us now. Congressman, thank you very much for your time tonight. I know it's late, and I know it's been a difficult day.
Yeah, well, good to be with you. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened, what you saw happen, what you saw and heard there today in Butler?
Sure. It started as a typical rally. We had some pre-rally speeches, myself, Senate candidate Dave McCormick, Mike Kelly, my colleague in the House. The president arrived. We did our standard pictures and met with some people. And then he came out and, he wasn't speaking for more than 6 or 7 minutes when we heard rapid gunfire. The first couple of shots, I don't think any of us knew exactly what was going on. Yeah. But I guess it was maybe the fourth shot was when it hit the president. And when he put his hand up to his head and hit the deck, boy, everybody in the place knew what was going on. They knew we were under fire. So the Secret Service did its job. Our Pennsylvania state troopers were also highly engaged. There was a lot of security there. And then very, very sadly, a individual that was sitting just right behind me, a few rows, was also hit. And that was a bad scene. And my understanding is that individual was a fatality, that he was killed. So it was chaotic. It was a shame. And, we're lucky that the president, former President Trump, by a quarter of an inch, avoided assassination.
Wow.
Congressman, just an incredibly traumatic evening. I'm going to ask for your patience. I want to pause this conversation for just a second because my colleague, our investigative correspondent, Tom Winter, is joining us with some breaking news on new details about the suspect. Tom, what's going on?
That's right, Hallie. Alongside our colleagues Kelly O'Donnell and Jonathan Dienst, federal investigators have tentatively identified the man who shot at former President Donald Trump today in Pennsylvania. He is a male described as approximately 20 years old and from Pennsylvania, according to 5 senior law enforcement officials briefed on the matter. So they have a tentative ID. They're still running things down from a law enforcement perspective, and that's the reason why they have not publicly announced the name, and we are not publicly announcing it either at this juncture. But again, the news is that federal investigators do have a tentative identification of the man who shot at former President Trump today. He's approximately 20 years old, from Pennsylvania, and that's according to 5 senior U.S. law enforcement officials. And as I always say, Hallie, and you're probably tired of me saying it over the years, this information it's an ongoing investigation. It's happening as we are live talking about it. So things are always subject to change. But the best information they have is that that's who this individual is. And as we get more information, we will certainly, of course, share it with you. But that's the latest.
Tom Winter, thank you. I'm going to let you get back to your phone. Some critical reporting there from you and the team. I appreciate that. Congressman Muser remains with us, of course. Dan Muser from Pennsylvania, who is there at today's rally. Congressman, obviously you heard my colleague reporting here, our NBC News team, that the suspect is believed to be about 20 years old. And from your state, from Pennsylvania here, sir. Talk us through some reaction there and bring us back to tonight. You described being so close to somebody who was ultimately killed. I imagine there was a fear for your own safety.
Well, I think everybody was fearing some, or in some cases, quite a bit, right? When you're hearing rapid fire like that, and you see the president go down, but certainly when President Trump did get up and waved his fist in that he's on the rise, that changed the mood in a hurry. But there was still a lot of pandemonium, tears, and quite a bit of fear. You know, regarding the shooter, look, I got some information on him a little bit earlier. If it's the same person, he seems that he put out something earlier that was very threatening, that he was going to do something today. Again, if it was the same individual, whether there's mental illness there or where that level of hate comes from, and the idea that he thinks he would go in and do some good by assassinating our candidate for president and perhaps the future president and the former president is pretty sad. But I'll be honest with you, I'm glad when someone like that thinks that they can get away with something like that he did not, number one, but number two, paid the ultimate price. We need to deter such craziness. And on the same note, I will add, we need an environment of more of open discourse, less hyperbolizing, less accusations, and more conversations. Right? I mean, that's the responsibility, I think, of those in an elected office, and hopefully this will be a catalyst for us to do that.
Congressman, still a lot of questions, obviously, and we want to be very clear about what we do and what we do not know. But some of those questions may be answered in just about 6 minutes when we hear from law enforcement at a news conference that is set to begin at 11:45 Eastern in Butler, Pennsylvania. We'll be bringing that to folks live. But, Congressman, before I let you go, any contact with any...
Oh, shit. They got a press conference in 5 minutes? That's 11:45. All right, bet.
In the Trump orbit, the broader orbit, since this...
Going to be quite present at his...
All right, chat. Supposedly there's going to be a press conference in 5 minutes. Nigga, I ain't even going to lie to you. I know I'm fat. I got to go get some food for this shit. Hold up.
Bringing Garrett Haake now, who covers former President Trump. And Garrett, I'm struck by the congressman describing Mr. Trump there as a fighter, because there is that now iconic image being circulated by his allies of the former president. We just showed it here in our video with his fist in the air. You see him waving there. After this, in the video, he does a couple of fist pumps. This is one of those shots there, one of those images, so to speak, Garrett. This is becoming symbolic of the way that those close to the former president see him in this moment and see him moving forward in many ways.
Yeah, Hallie, I think that's right. I mean, it's always been a core element of his political brand, the idea that Donald Trump was a fighter. He likes to say that he will be fighting for the forgotten man. That was, his campaign theme back in 2016 and 2020 for a time. I had a Republican strategist not affiliated with the campaign who I was talking to earlier tonight who said you can't buy a photo like that. I mean, this will become an iconic image in our politics. All of these pictures of Donald Trump from tonight, there are so many that are kind of already going to be seared into the minds of people who've been watching some of this coverage. The photos and the fact that it's Donald Trump himself who's defined much of what we know about tonight. I think really with that one post that he made on his Truth Social platform just before 9 p.m. It was he that confirmed or said that he had been shot. In fact, when at the time much of the early reporting had suggested that perhaps it was a ricochet or a piece of glass. But no, the former president said in that post, it was in fact a bullet that hit him in the upper ear, on his right ear. He said he could tell exactly what was going on. He could hear it as it was happening. He expressed in that same post condolences for the other victims. Thank you for law enforcement. And interestingly enough, I was thinking in the context of the congressman's comments about, whether they had heard somebody else in the day who might have been making threats. At the time of that Truth Social post, the former president said nothing was known about the shooter. That just before 9 p.m. tonight. Now, who knows to what degree he would have been briefed on an investigation into his own assassination attempt at that point. But that's where we were a few hours ago. And Hallie, as we sit here now, we remain a bit in the dark about the former president's movements. We know only that he's left the Butler area. His campaign has, by rule, basically not been commenting really about this assassination attempt at all tonight, but are, I think, particularly and understandably guarding quite closely his movements at this hour. He had his plane with him there at the Pittsburgh airport, but we don't know whether he's going back to New Jersey, as had been the original plan, or perhaps to one of his other residences tonight. We do expect to see him on Monday in Milwaukee for one important piece of business, of course. He has to pick a vice president. He has to pick a running mate, and he has to do that by basically mid-afternoon Monday, or they're going to have to rework the convention. And I will say just one final thought again, as I was listening to your conversation with the congressman. The statements that we have from the RNC and from the Trump campaign thus far are basically the show must go on, that the convention will move forward on Monday. But the idea that a convention can be completely redone from the ground up is not totally a new phenomenon. Obviously, we saw the conventions rebuilt from scratch during COVID in 2020. And I remember the first convention I ever covered in 2008, a Republican convention, had to be completely reworked. One day of programming completely dropped to accommodate a hurricane halfway across the country. That it made it seem inappropriate to be holding convention-related activities at that time. And so there will be no rest in Milwaukee tonight, I suspect, for all the folks, some 50,000 ultimately, who will be there hoping to put on that event for the Republican Party that's now sort of rethinking quite a bit, I imagine.
Garrett, thank you. That tees us up for Vaughn Hilliard, who is in Milwaukee. And Vaughn, I want to preface this by saying in the next couple of minutes, we expect to see a news conference from Butler, Pennsylvania, perhaps a critical one, as we do think we're going to hear from both local and federal law enforcement officials about what happened at the rally, about the next steps moving forward, and about where this investigation stands. There are a lot of questions still on that front tonight as our team continues to report out details, including that multiple sources are telling our team that the suspect appears to be, who is now dead, the suspected shooter, 20 years old, just about, from the state of Pennsylvania. As that is happening, there is that split screen, of course, where you are in Milwaukee, as Garrett and I were just talking about, Vaughn.
Right, and there's also a question tonight exactly where the presumptive 2024 Republican nominee is headed. We know that he has left the Butler area. It was not intended initially for him to come directly to Milwaukee. The main primetime festivities, the convention formally opens inside of the arena behind me here on Monday, though the several thousand delegates that will be in attendance and will be formally nominating him on Monday here in Milwaukee.
Fuck all that. What's up with the press conference, gang?
Already in town. There was a reception this
evening
that was on the books, being put on by Reince Priebus, the former RNC chair, who is from the Milwaukee area, is essentially serving as the host of this Republican National Convention. That reception was canceled here tonight. There are other meetings that are going to be taking place here around the greater Milwaukee area tomorrow. I'm told that those are proceeding as normal. There is no indication that the convention plans are changing in any way. I've talked to several delegates here tonight who suggested to me that this only intensifies the energy and the importance of the convention speech that Donald Trump will deliver in prime time on Thursday night. Garrett said it. He still has a vice presidential running mate to make the selection of. There is a lot on the line for Donald Trump in the next 4 months. There is a potential sentencing date still in Lower Manhattan that he could very well face. And I can only tell you, Hallie, over the last 9 years, you have covered this campaign so closely as well. The intensity on the ground among voters on the left, on the right, has only increased with each passing year. And this year, more than ever, the understanding of what is on the line in this rematch of Joe Biden and Donald Trump on November 5th, 2024 is very well understood. And when you see the thousands of folks that come out to Donald Trump's rallies in the heat of the summer, like it was today in Pennsylvania, or a couple weeks ago in Nevada when it was over 100 degrees, there is a passion and intensity among so many to have that individual return back into the White House. Today, we are less than 4 months from the presidential election, and we expect the former president of the United States and presumptive Republican nominee to be here in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention in less than 48 hours. Hallie.
Vaughn Hilliard live for us there in Milwaukee. Vaughn, thank you. I want to show you now the scene from Butler, Pennsylvania, where we are awaiting at any minute. You see the microphones there. The chairs set up a news conference from federal, state, local officials on what has happened today. And you see it there in that just unprecedented banner on our screen. The former President Trump has been hurt in this apparent assassination attempt, a moment that is clearly reshaping this political campaign. The former president, he says, his campaign says, is fine. He is safe. Mr. Trump describing how he heard the bullet whizzing past his ear, that he was shot, that the bullet pierced his upper right ear. We've seen those images, too, of blood on his face. You see it there as we are now waiting for that news conference to begin. And if you're just joining us or have been watching for the last couple of hours, we want to give you a sense of the moments, what it was like when it happened and after there in Butler. Listen.
Dad, take a look at what happened.
It don't look like it went through. But if y'all claim Megan Thee Stallion got hit, he got shot too then. Fuck it.
Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move to the stand. Get ready. Get ready. We ready?
And then as he moved his head to look at the chart up on the screen, that's when he got grazed in the ear. If he had not moved his head at that nick of time, it could have been a lot worse.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick.
There you go,
Bobby. It's one of the
Bobby.
reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that people, and we have more detail to come.
I'm shook. I'm definitely shook up, but I'm okay. Yeah, and Trump was talking, watching him. I heard pop, pop, pop. I thought it was like a cap gun. And my son's like, God, get down. And next thing you know, everybody around us was down. And then once we got down, we was up at the top of our bleacher, the men were yelling to all the snipers and all the cops to come over because he had shot a man and a woman in our bleacher.
The scene as it happened just after 6 o'clock Eastern time. Here we are pushing midnight on the East Coast, and we expect to get an update from law enforcement any minute. Evie Paporis, a former Secret Service agent, is with us now. We understand, Evie, that Secret Service will be briefing along with federal law enforcement, local law enforcement. Help us set the table for what we might expect to hear in the next couple of minutes.
So they're going to break down what they do know and then what they're willing to share. Obviously, this is an ongoing investigation. We're not going to get all the facts. It's likely they may share the name of the individual. They may not. It depends what they've done. Because think about it. You want to go and interview all the people that are connected to this person. You also want to make sure that there are no other individuals connected to this person in committing this crime, committing the assassination, that it
Get
was
off
a
stream after
network
this press
of
conference.
people. Those are the things you want to look at. They're going to talk about where that person was positioned. Interestingly enough, it's how did that person get there? That's a big question that everybody's asking. Yes, it was outside the security perimeter, but how did that person get there? How did that person get access to the roof? These are all the different things people are trying to understand. And what protocols were put in place, and what are they going to do? So you're going to hear the what have we done so far? Where are we at now? And what are we going to do moving forward? Likely with the U.S. Secret Service, they're going to talk about their resources, how they're moving with protection as they're going forward. We're talking about the RNC. You've got other candidates coming in, especially if former President Trump is going to announce who his VP is. So the Secret Service isn't going to turn off. This is still going to go. And you're going to see more resources and more assets put into place. So it's going to be a breakdown of the investigation and of how things are moving forward when it comes protection-wise.
Evie, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stand by. We want to listen in now to this news conference that is happening in Butler, Pennsylvania. We're bringing it to you live here on this NBC News special report.
Are we ready?
Let's listen in.
Is everyone ready?
I'm ready.
Ready?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know if all the cameras are.
So my name is Kevin Rojek. That's R-O-J-E-K. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI Pittsburgh field office. The first thing I want to say is that the FBI stands with the people of Butler County in Western Pennsylvania, and our hearts go out to the victims of this heinous act which occurred today. This is our community, and I want to let the public know that the FBI has deployed a number of our resources, including investigative agents, our evidence response team, bomb technicians, and we have additional resources coming from other field offices, as well as from FBI headquarters, including our evidence response from Quantico, Virginia. We have intelligence analysts as well, working from our field office in Pittsburgh, working feverishly to attempt to identify the individual who did this and any motives behind why this was done. Right now, we need the public's help. Anyone who was on scene, who saw anything, who identified any information, please report that to the FBI using either the phone number 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at fbi.gov/Butler. This evening we had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump. It's still an active crime scene. As I mentioned, we have a number of agents on scene. We also are working closely with other federal agencies, our state partners, and our local police partners as well. Again, at this time, we are not prepared to identify who the shooter is. We are close to that identification, and as soon as we are 100% confident in who that individual is, we will share it with the press. With that being said, also, we do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was. At this time, I'm going to turn over the podium to Colonel Chris Paris from the Pennsylvania State Police.
Thank you very much. My name is Colonel Chris Paris, P-A-R-I-S, Commissioner of Pennsylvania State Police. I would just like to say that the State Police have been in regular contact with the Governor's office, and the full support and assets of the entire agency are behind the FBI and our other federal and municipal partners to assist with this investigation. The thoughts and prayers of the Pennsylvania State Police are likewise with the victims of this terrible act. We are prepared to support this investigation in any way, shape, or form, and we stand ready to participate in a full, fair, and competent and thorough investigation. To give you an operational rundown, Deputy Commissioner of Operations, Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens, is behind me, and he will discuss the operational portion that's being conducted by the Pennsylvania State Police. Lieutenant Colonel Bivens.
Good evening. So let me describe for you a little bit about the scene that we have over there. As you know, there was a grandstand, a very large area, a lot of people there when this all unfolded. The former president had come out and begun to speak shortly after 6 o'clock this evening. And within about 10 to 15 minutes, a number of sounds were heard, and it became apparent that shots were being fired in that direction. It was a chaotic scene. Law enforcement, I believe, acted heroically, quickly identifying and neutralizing the threat, as well as responding to assist the various victims. PSP had a significant presence on the scene along with all of our federal partners at the time of the shooting. We have since enhanced that presence significantly, bringing in resources from all over the Commonwealth to ensure that we have a speedy, thorough investigation. We are working very closely with the FBI as we work through this. As you can imagine, because of the variety of crimes that have been committed, some are under federal jurisdiction, some are under state jurisdiction. And so, we're working through all of that, not an issue at all. We work seamlessly, but the FBI has maintained the lead on the attempted assassination. PSP will take the lead on the homicide and the shootings of the other individuals in the grandstand area. And so there are a lot of witnesses to be interviewed, a lot of things to be processed. There were some complicators that hopefully the next time we speak we can describe for you, but some complicators that slowed down some of the processing and the positive identification of the shooter. But know that at this time we have no reason to believe that there is any other existing threat out there. We are doing everything we can to make sure that this is thoroughly investigated, and that if there is any information developed that anyone else was involved, that between PSP and the FBI, that will very quickly be followed up on. So I think at this time we would open it up to questions from all of you.
Was this a lone wolf attack?
Again, I think it's too early to say that. We have one shooter tentatively identified, but we're not stopping there. We're following up on a lot of information. It will be some time until we can conclusively say or answer that question, I think.
How long do you think that gunman was hiding up there? I mean, we saw the snipers up there, as the crowds were kind of rolling in and looked like they had a pretty good viewpoint to check everyone out. So how long did that guy been up there?
Again, that will all be part of the investigation, but
Can you come up to the mic, please?
that will all be part of the investigation. But I can tell you that preliminarily it appears everything unfolded very quickly. So, again, we'll have more information on that, but it's just too early to start definitively saying this happened at this exact time. And
But it wasn't like he's inside the security perimeter, right? That building he's on is outside of it?
That's correct.
We'll check how far outside of it was.
We'll have that information for you. It was some distance outside of the
Colonel, can you comment on reports that there were people who saw someone on the roof and tried to alert authorities?
We're following up on those. I will tell you that I am aware of those, and I am aware that law enforcement had responded to a number of reports of suspicious activity. The specific response to this will be all part of the after action, but yes, law enforcement was responding to check on several suspicious occurrences.
What were the other suspicious occurrences?
That will all be part of the investigation.
So you said that you're close to identifying the shooter. Could you at least confirm that he is from Butler County, Pennsylvania? Is there anything else? Did he have any affiliation with that company, do you know?
So again, we're not prepared at this time to provide the identity of the potential shooter. We're in the process of doing the confirmation, and once we have the confirmation, we'll release the name officially to the press. But at this time, we can't give any further information on the potential shooter.
What seems to be done?
No, it's a matter of doing biometric confirmations. So there was no identification on the individual, as an example. We're looking at photographs right now, and we're trying to run his DNA and get biometric confirmation on.
Would you be able to comment just what police found left behind? Like any possible devices? Did you find any extra guns? Just anything else?
Oh, nah, they're asking the right questions, though.
Not at this time. No, we're still in the process of an active investigation. So we'd like to reserve releasing any information like that until we have more facts.
Today, is there any heightened threat level, credible threat level that you guys were aware of more so than what is typical for an event like this?
From the FBI's perspective, no. We did not have any specific threat information related to this event.
Can I ask, you talked about how it happened so quickly, and we know that there is at least 2 casualties, including the gunman at this point, that we're aware of. It could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely.
Are you able to comment more about that and how it was taken care of so quickly?
So I think the credit goes to not only the Secret Service, who was on site, but also the state and local partners who were there on site and were able to react immediately when the incident occurred.
Do you know how many officers fired their weapons?
I do not.
I understand that it's very early and there's still going to be a lot of questions, but I mean, is this a failure of security?
Really, at this point, we're not going to make that assessment. There's an active investigation. A lot of things need to occur investigatively to make those determinations of what, if any, failures there were. So we can't comment on that at this time.
So you can't say if Secret Service had checked those buildings or were keeping a close eye or?
Really have to defer to Secret Service for those questions.
Was there any law enforcement at the AGR property prior to the event? Like, were there police at that location at any point during the event?
Are you saying the location where the shooter was located?
Yes.
I don't have any information on that. You'd have to defer to Secret Service.
When do you think you will release? When will the name of the shooter be released? I mean, any inkling of when that might happen, tomorrow or?
So that'll be as soon as we've confirmed 100%, we're willing to release that. So if we have, as far as the contact information for the press, we should be able to do that within the next few hours, I imagine.
I'm sorry. So there was a vehicle being checked not far from here. We've also heard of a possible related scene in Bethel Park. Is there anything you can tell us tonight about other areas where law enforcement may be searching in relation to this event?
Again, right now we're tracking down all leads and doing all interviews and tracking anything that we can regarding suspicious locations, vehicles, locations, interviewing individuals. So it's all related to this event, but I can't confirm or deny anything that's going on beyond that.
Can you tell us about the weapon that the shooter used?
As far as the details of the weapon?
Yeah, what kind of a rifle was that?
Do you want to comment on that?
What did he use?
No, until it's confirmed, I would comment on it.
Okay, until we have the confirmation of who the shooter is, and we'll release that as part of the investigative details later.
You said that guys are deploying extra resources, and one of the things that you said was bomb technicians. So is this standard procedure, or do you have reason to believe that there are bombs somewhere in Butler County? Can you just walk us through that?
It's primarily standard procedure of any suspicious packages. In this case, there was identification of suspicious packages around where the shooter was, and so we deployed, in an abundance of caution, bomb assets to make sure that those were cleared for investigators to move safely in the area. We're still working on, it's still an active crime scene, so I'm not going to say that the scene is 100% clear at this time.
Why are there any Secret Service agents here right now for this press conference?
So Secret Service wasn't available for the press conference at this time.
I understand
What
that.
packages are you talking about? You're talking about packages, what, just suspicious packages like what? You're the shooter.
Really anything. I don't have specifics on what they were looking at, but there's people in the crowd will leave bags as they're fleeing the scene like this. So any suspicious packages we have to treat as it may be an explosive device.
And how quickly, this goes in, I guess, to the Secret Service, which we're not here to talk about, I guess, but when you guys jumped into action, all law enforcement, and were able to take down that shooter, how quickly did everybody jump in and who ended up taking him out?
So it was immediate, and it was We're still trying to figure that out. So we'll wait till we have more definitive information regarding that investigatively.
What about the person in the crowd? Do you have any information about how they were killed?
My understanding was it was from the shooter, but again, those will be details that are released later.
Do you search homes or apartments as a part of your method of identifying the individual?
So if that's where the leads take us, absolutely.
Was Donald Trump hit with a bullet, do you know for sure, or was it potentially something else that could have?
I don't have that specific information as far as the injuries to the former president.
I understand you're not releasing the suspect's identification right now, but as you know, is this person known to you guys? Is he somebody that you guys have been looking at due to threats he's possibly made online, et cetera, et cetera?
Again, the information that we currently have, we're looking at that obviously very intently, and as we know that information, we'll release that as well. So we'll need to plan another time for a follow-up press conference. We're looking at all investigative leads and all everything from, and that's why we asked the public, because I'm sure there'll be cell phone video, there'll be all kinds of information that we'll use to fully flesh out exactly what happened here.
I know you're saying you can't say what type of gun it is, but do you know how many shots were fired?
I don't.
And
I don't have that information as far as that. That'll come out in the investigation as well.
Is there an identification tonight on the other victims?
As far as the civilians,
civilians that were injured and killed?
Yeah.
So we do have identification on those. We're not prepared to release it at this time. We have notified a number of family members, but they have not had an opportunity to
gonna
notify
tell us
extended
anything.
family and things. I would confirm for you that we did have.
They're not going to tell us anything. We got to figure out another way to figure out what the hell's going on here. Maybe Hassan knows something we don't.
Into one particular location.
you're saying just one fatality?
Bosch tools are built for workers. The Bosch X-Lock grinder switches wheels up to 5 times faster than standard grinders.
Have one individual killed, and I know I heard somebody say about 2 victims. There were 3 in total besides the former president. So 2 critically wounded, 1 killed.
At this point, do you know if they were sitting near each other and where in relation to the former president were they?
I don't have their exact seating by individual. Again, that'll all be part of the investigation, but their shots were scattered somewhat, and so they weren't just into one particular location.
You're saying just one fatality as of right now?
Yes,
The shooter and one fatality.
the shooter plus 1 fatality.
Oh, thank you.
So there was 1 victim of the shooter who was killed, and then the shooter was killed.
And then 2 in critical.
Yes, ma'am.
Witnesses say they saw a semi-automatic rifle was used by the shooter. Can you share any more details of this? That's what you
I've heard those reports as well, and again, we do have a good idea of what the weapon was, but again, that's all part of the ongoing investigation. And I'm not trying to be cagey about that. You know, when the SAC talked about the need to be very methodical and to be cautious with that scene, we are doing just that. We don't want anybody else getting hurt, and candidly, there are some concerns that we'll be able to talk more about later on about just what those concerns are and continue to be.
Why would you have to talk to the shooter's family yet?
That's all part of the investigation.
After the event, there were a lot of really angry people. Are you monitoring? Have there been any threats in response to this? Are you worried? Have there been any specific threats?
That's certainly a concern. And
TikTok is going with Mark Violet. Yeah, that's bullshit. That's also not real.
We've got some federal violations, some state violations.
Yo, Pittsburgher
And so our
here, some guy
investigators
named
are going
Ben
out methodically.
Roethlisberger.
We have a large team of investigators that are going out.
Yeah,
providing
Fortune is so fucking stupid because the Maxwell Yerrick guy is some Antifa guy who got arrested. He was 30 years old in 2017. The shooter is 20 years old, bro. What the fuck are you talking about? God damn. 4chan and other like adjacent people are so unimaginably stupid about this shit. I looked it up. I saw the news article. I saw the news article about like Maxwell Yerrick or whatever. And it's some dude who's like fucking 30 years old. Yeah, 4chan is not trying to find the actual guy. They're just trying to blame the left. This could still be a leftist. I'm just saying, like, you know, do a normal, you know, do a better job.
I hate to use the word routine, but it is a fairly routine matter for all of our agencies to work jointly with the Secret Service. And it really depends on the venue, on what information is out there, what number of resources are devoted to it. And we work with them to provide whatever is requested by the Secret Service, but they're the lead in that security.
Was there anything about this venue that made it particularly difficult to secure?
You know, I would defer to the Secret Service to answer that. They would have done the initial assessment.
Was the rooftop part of what was being secured? Was the rooftop, given its proximity to the event, part of that process?
It's my understanding that was outside of the perimeter.
Did this shooter have any previous history?
We're not going to comment on anything about the shooter.
Did the agency deny Trump's team extra security?
It's much better walking down
there.
Not that I'm aware of.
If Trump had been the nominee already, would he have had additional security for this event?
There again, Secret Service has the lead, and I'm not going to comment or speculate on what may or may not be provided at any given point, depending on their status as a candidate. What I will tell you is that, in my experience, the Secret Service does an excellent job of maintaining security on protectees. They're very cautious. They don't hesitate to ask for resources, and candidly, we don't hesitate to supply those resources.
I guess he's saying they did technically protect Trump.
And be more specific about what you would really like to see from the public, if it's videos, photos, personal accounts.
I think the videos and photos would be very helpful, and I think that once the shooter is identified, anyone that has specific information on that shooter, that would be very helpful as well to help us assess motive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we are absolutely not taking for granted that this was a lone wolf attack.
Shatter, that account you found is not him.
For any additional information, it might point us toward
He doesn't
anybody
look like him
else
at
that may
all.
have had a hand in this.
Sir, at this point, what is the main focus of the investigation? What's the most important thing for you right now, in a few hours?
Well, there's not any one single focus. I mean, certainly the immediate focus was life safety, getting the former president out of there and to care, getting care to the other victims, and trying to secure the scene as quickly as possible. It shifted then from a life safety priority to then an investigative priority. And so I guess if I had to point to where we are right now, the single greatest priority would be to identifying a motive and whether there was anyone else involved.
We're just beginning the political season. Are you guys concerned with all of these rallies that happen and how they're set up? Is this going to change maybe the venues?
Again, I would refer you to the Secret Service in terms of what they work out with the campaigns. We will continue to supply resources, as I'm sure the FBI will, and local partners as well.
When this was announced, it was, there was quite a few days of a heads up that people were getting ready to come to this Trump rally. From a law enforcement perspective, when you announce a big event like this, all that time in advance, like a week out, does it give people more time to plan something like this?
Well, I suppose, but there's a balance, I would think, that any of the campaigns on either side try to weigh. I mean, the point of them announcing it, I suspect, is because they want the crowd, and so it's not up to us in law enforcement to tell them when they should announce or how they should announce
why
or
this
how they
happened
should
tonight.
conduct it. We offer our best
Yeah.
advice, again, working hand in hand with the Secret Service,
You're
offer
right.
our best advice of how best to secure and protect that venue.
Sir, considering how many people.
I should never talk about Trump.
And, we're monitoring that whole situation. I mentioned that, we're bringing a lot of assets to bear. And so like the FBI, utilizing their analysts, we also have the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center. We will utilize the resources of our intelligence division and the Criminal Intelligence Center to be able to monitor for concerns about any threats, regardless of the side of the issue or the political spectrum. We want to make sure that we try and avoid any further violence.
So no, nothing specific so far?
No, sir.
Without identifying them by name, can you say anything about the other folks who were injured or killed? Were they adults, male, female, anything at all?
They were adults, and they're male.
All three?
Yes.
How difficult of the day is this for your department, though, or all your departments to go talk to these family members, including the civilians who were gunned down while they just went to a rally to try and, celebrate against the upcoming election? What are those conversations like, and how do you kind of get through that?
We have trained investigators, and we're partnered hand in hand with the FBI, again, because we've got some federal violations, some state violations, and so our investigators are going out and methodically. We have a large team of investigators that are going out, dividing up these interviews and trying to conduct them as quickly as possible, and then there will be follow-ups. With the FBI asking for people to call in tips, I have no doubt that we will receive a lot of additional information that will also require follow-up. But again, we're working very well together, and it's only a short matter of time until we get through all of those interviews.
Colonel,
Did
from
anyone
your
police that
experience,
would-
how close a call was it for President Trump?
There were no police hit with bullets.
From your
And-
experience, how close a call was it for President
I'm not going to speculate or comment on that.
Have any of you talked to the president? Did any of you have any kind of reaction or any?
No.
No.
Which law enforcement agencies were tasked with securing this particular rally outside of the United States Secret Service?
Well, Secret Service always has the lead on securing something like this, but then they work very closely. And I hate to use the word routine, but it is a fairly routine matter for all of our agencies to work jointly with the Secret Service. And it really depends on the venue, on what information is out there, what number of resources are devoted to it, and we work with them to provide whatever is requested by the Secret Service, but they're the lead in that security.
Was there anything about this venue that made it particularly difficult to secure?
I would defer to the Secret Service to answer that. They would have done the initial assessment.
Was the rooftop part of what was being secured? Was the rooftop, given its proximity to the event, part of that process?
It's my understanding that was outside of the perimeter.
Did this shooter have any previous criminal history?
We're not going to comment on anything about the
Did
shooter.
any agency deny Trump's team extra security? Any of the agencies that are up there?
Not that I'm aware of.
If Trump had been the nominee already, would he have had additional security for this event?
There again, Secret Service has the lead, and I'm not going to comment or speculate on what may or may not. Notice certainly as soon as additional things develop that would be noteworthy or of interest to you, we'll get that scheduled and have another with you.
Locally, what can residents, businesses expect to happen with the investigation over the next couple of days? What's going to be going on there that people need?
Well, again, the interviews will all be occurring, and so they may see law enforcement in their communities. People came from a wide area to come to this rally, I'm told. So, there's going to be law enforcement fanning out, and as additional calls, photos, videos come in, those additional interviews will result in law enforcement being out in the community conducting those interviews. But otherwise, they really shouldn't see any other significant impact in the
Would you
community.
confirm whether it's a male or female, the homicide, the bystander who died?
It's a male,
A male?
yes.
Now, I'm from a European outlet from Poland, and I'm already getting text messages from, back home, and people are asking, how could this happen? What's going on in America? I know that is a philosophical question, but how could you talk to the people outside the United States about what happened here in Butler?
Well, again, what I would say is a tragic incident that occurred. We're not in a position to start second-guessing how or why or anything else at this point. Just know that it will be thoroughly investigated. If there is anyone to prosecute, that will be done, and we'll move forward. But I don't have a good answer for you.
We'll just take one last question.
I know that PSP said that you guys were not aware of any additional requests from the Trump team for security. What about the FBI? Was there an additional request for additional security from the Trump team, and was that denied in any way, shape, or form?
No, there was no additional request for security that was ever denied by the FBI.
What does the FBI do in these events? Like, what is your role?
So we showed up after the fact. We were monitoring the event, but it was once the incident occurred that we come and we take the primary jurisdiction for the investigation. Thank you. We'll, as we have additional information, we'll provide it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you have been listening to that midnight briefing now after what the FBI describes as an assassination attempt against former President Trump at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, the location of that news conference you just watched, 12:22 Eastern time at this point. No identification of the suspected shooter. Now, officials said they were not prepared to ID that person, that this man, as they said, had no ID on him. They're still running biometrics, dealing with DNA. There's also no information on a motive at this point either. I want to bring in our investigative correspondent, Tom Winter. There were, Tom, some allusions to some complications or some complicators, in their words, that perhaps slowed down some of the process. Allusions to reports of suspicious activity as well. Help us understand where this investigation goes, with a lot of the focus now on the Secret Service, the security of the perimeter in place, with our understanding that the Secret Service was not at this briefing tonight because they weren't able to accommodate that, Tom.
That's right, Hallie. So I'm going to deal with the security, the Secret Service component, what may have happened in just a second. To the suspect specifically, a couple of different factors. First off, you have an incident like this, a shooting with a crowd, different people shot, then that would be a chaotic scene, a difficult scene, no matter what. Add in the fact that this is the former president of the United States and the presumptive Republican nominee, and you can only imagine the challenges that occurred immediately following the incident that we're about to watch right here on our screen. So that's the first thing. Second thing, with respect to the suspect, yes, they do have a tentative identification. As you and I spoke before this press conference, that individual is a male, approximately 20 years old, from Pennsylvania. There's a very active law enforcement work being done right now. He did not have an identification on him. And so what they want to do for sure is to find a way to be able to match either fingerprints or some sort of DNA and have the ability to make sure with 100% certainty that this person is the person who shot at Donald Trump today, and what they describe very clearly as an assassination attempt. That's a significant thing from the FBI to describe the investigation that way. We've heard no reports that they're looking for anybody else, and no reports that anybody else might be involved. But of course, it's still an ongoing investigation. As far as the security is concerned, we had a map up earlier that showed where the shooting occurred, and it's to the right. Now you're looking at it here. If you were
I was about to say that. I did say, didn't that nigga was in the wrong spot? He said it was this one. I thought it was this one. That's exactly what I said.
President Trump looking out at the crowd, it was off to his right where this occurred. You can see it's approximately 140, 150 yards away. And on the left-hand side there, the location of the suspected gunman's body, that's where this individual, a male, was apparently set up and firing. That's a pretty long distance for somebody to fire with that level of accuracy towards the former president. And you can see on the right-hand side, approximately exactly where Trump was located when this gunman started firing. There is some additional video we're in the process of getting into our system and being able to show you, I believe, that is going to show the counter sniper teams. So these are teams that are set up to be able to look out at the crowd and surrounding area and perhaps fire upon anybody, which is what apparently happened here, that may pose a threat. The big question, Hallie, and this photograph doesn't show it because this is a Google Earth snapshot at a moment in time. It was not something that was taken today. There were obviously stands that were set up. There was obviously all sorts of apparatus in place as far as the security perimeter of the Secret Service. The question that people are going to have, it's going to be a very serious question, is how could somebody have line of sight from a distance of approximately 150 yards towards the former president of the United States, the presumptive Republican nominee, and how could that person be on that roof and not be spotted in advance? And as we heard from law enforcement officials at that press conference, they did say that they did get some witness reports that law enforcement had been directed towards that location, and they were trying to see if, in fact, that was true, if people actually did report that at the time.
Bro, they tripping. 150 yards, that's an easy shot. Luckily, the dude was 20 years old and he didn't know what the fuck. Luckily, he wasn't trained that well. 150 yards, bro. A sniper easily take your head off. Any type of veteran sniper would have killed that man. God damn, Trump. You survived, man. God damn, Trump. Inches away from death.
Pennsylvania State Police would have been there to work with the United States Secret Service, but the United States Secret Service doesn't have press representation or folks on the ground. They've got another concern. They've got a candidate who's set to attend the Republican National Convention in approximately a day-ish from now, has to make a VP pick who needs to get a Secret Service detail. So it'd be a chaotic time, period. And now you're in a situation where you've got to up your protective capabilities involving the former president to a level that would put him on par with being the president of the United States. You can only imagine. And as our colleague Kelly O'Donnell pointed out in reporting back in June, in fact, they had ramped up security on Trump, given the fact that he was the presumptive nominee and a former president. And we all know the political temperature in this country and how fractured this country is politically. So when you mix that all together, the threat environment that we've been talking about for weeks and months, this was a situation that I think a lot of folks in law enforcement feared. But having noted that, it's something that the Secret Service will certainly have to answer to as to how somebody was able to get up on top of a roof that close with what appears to be line of sight. But we'll get more details once we can figure out where those stands were. And of course,
it's almost like it was an inside job. How the hell that nigga was just right in the... Like, bro, what? That's crazy.
Of course, once more imagery comes in, that's something the FBI is really hoping for here. I remember when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, the FBI put out a phone number, and they also set up a website for people to send stuff. They were flummoxed that the phones were not ringing. And then all of a sudden they realized they were getting inundated with videos that people had, photographs that people had. Look at all the smartphones just in that picture. There's 6, 7, 8 of them. And so it was video that came out of that really helped with their investigation. Here, they appear to know who the suspect is, Hallie, but it would really help them out from a standpoint of when did he get up on the roof, certainly identify if anybody helped him get up on the roof, but when did he get up on the roof, what was noticed and when, and what went down and when, and that'll all be part of the investigation. And obviously significant questions, and as I know, in D.C. where you are, there are serious questions being asked of Congress tonight. And it appears that perhaps the Secret Service will be in front of lawmakers to answer questions about what went on today. But it sure appears, based on some photographs and the incident that we had, is that this was a very serious assassination attempt. That's how it's being described to myself and my colleagues by those in law enforcement. Came very close today to a real tragedy on top of, obviously, the person who was there who died.
Tom Winter, thank you. And to your point, the Speaker of the House calling now for that congressional investigation. I want to quickly bring in Evie Poumpouras, a former Secret Service agent. And Evie, I'm curious, with your background, with your expertise, what did you hear in that news conference, in that briefing that is notable to you? What perked your ears up?
There are a couple of different components here. So a lot of questions are being asked of the FBI of things that really the Secret Service does. And I think we will hear from the Secret Service, but traditionally they have a one-voice policy. I'm not surprised that a representative wasn't there. They maybe didn't have the manpower or the person available, but I do think they're going to want to get their information, kind of get that information together, and then have that one voice come out to talk about what happened. And when you look at protection, there are elements that go into it. So there were many things that PSP was saying, that the FBI was saying, that are correct. U.S. Secret Service is the lead agency. So meaning you have this rally, Secret Service comes in advance, they have an advance team, they go to the site, and they typically assign an agent to look around and say, what do I need? What do I need here to secure this? What kind of manpower do I need? What am I going to ask for? And that's where that pre-security planning comes in. And you decide, I'm going to ask for X amount of people, snipers, tactical teams. I'm also even the stage, the way it's designed, egress points and ingress points. In addition to how am I going to get people out? A lot of people, everyone's so focused on the president, and we have been in these hours that we've been reporting. The crowd is also a responsibility you have to take in. The president is the target. He's the threat. So wherever he goes, the threat goes. And so when he's at a rally like this, you have to also think of all those people there. And we've seen this today where we have one person who was killed, and we have, I believe it's 2 people in critical condition, or 2 people that are injured. So when you put your security plan in place, you have to think of all these elements. Now, from an investigative standpoint, everybody is cautious. FBI is cautious. PSP is cautious as what information to release. They are doing their due diligence. It is a little bit interesting to me that the individual didn't have his ID on it. Normally, what we see historically, people who do things like this, they want to be known. They want to be identified right away. So for whatever reason, this person didn't have their identification. The other thing that I caught is PSP was talking about how they were a little bit slow in doing the investigation, that they had certain obstacles in place. And he talked about packages or things being left behind, but he didn't elaborate when he said that. So when I hear that, I'm thinking, did the shooter perhaps place certain bags or packages around the area where he was engaging? Did that make it difficult for them to access the area as to where he was? Or are they talking about things left behind by people in the stands, or both, right? And here comes a question. As far as, I would hear a lot of the question being asked about that building, that area. Why was that area not secured? You lock down the inner perimeter, right? Wherever that strong presence is. Everything outside, you don't typically clean those areas, meaning
it doesn't matter if there's a clean line of sight and you're supposed to have snipers canvassing the area. The snipers would easily be like, all right, you see that building way over there? It's not likely, but a nigga can shoot from there and easily hit the president. So there was a lapse in judgment. Somebody didn't do their job. No matter what they say, somebody didn't do their job, bro. Or inside job. Inside job. These snipers, bro, are professionals, man. They don't make mistakes like this, bro. They could easily see the fact that there's not people on every rooftop, even close to that place, means, yeah, there was a lapse in judgment, a lapse in security.
We also are working closely.
A lapse in security, man.
it was this guy, bro. I've never shown his photo. I don't know who this guy is. Okay?
It's him?
I don't know why people are coming in here and being like, yeah, we got it. Like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't know who the fuck this...
I hate Republicans. I hate Trump. And guess what? You got the wrong guy. My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I hate Republicans. I hate Trump.
Who is this person?
He's the Joker. He's so cool. Yeah.
Don't keep showing him. He's a weird 4chan groiper.
What are these words? We don't know. What is a I don't.
Ignore the blue shirt guy. 4chan shit I explained. Check history. But like, I have ignored this guy. And now you guys are showing me this guy that I have ignored. Like, I don't care about this person. This random fucking dude. He doesn't even look like the dude who got domed. What do you do if the shooter's face is revealed and it's you with a scar and an eye patch?
That happened. Putting his thought in a head.
Yeah. Dude, what do? I don't know. I'm cooked, I guess. Oh man, I would hate for that to happen. Venom Hassan, punish Hassan.
Here at this press conference behind me, we're not willing to really give us more information on this shooter. I just want to also note, in addition to the attempted assassination attempt that the FBI is now officially calling this and that they are investigating, Pennsylvania State Police, they were also going into detail that they are investigating, well, the federal agents, they are dealing with the assassination attempt. The Pennsylvania State Police, they're dealing with the homicide of one person who was also in the crowd and two others who were also critically wounded at that Trump rally due to gunfire as well. There are so many questions that we have. At this point, it's too early, according to law enforcement officials, to say if this was just a lone wolf. It is too early to say how long this shooter potentially was up there on that roof that you've been describing over the past few minutes. And also at this point, it's too early to say what any motive for this particular shooting is. So those are all some of the questions that we are hoping to get answers to in the coming certainly hours and days. One of the things that I'll note, though, is I asked the folks here behind me, the law enforcement officials, if this was a failure of security, which clearly it does seem here that it was a massive failure of security. And the FBI...
I think it is funny that they're like, this is officially an assassination attempt, because like whenever they go, what do you think the motive is? It's like, oh, he was just trying to kill the guy behind Donald Trump. just such an unfortunate way to do it. You know, he couldn't just like wait until later.
Questions that we were asking of these officials about lapses in security here for this event. They said that you have to put those to Secret Service, and of course Secret Service was not present at this particular press conference. So again, there are still at this point a lot of questions that we do have, certainly about the identification of the person, how long he was there, and how in the world this was able to happen. But the FBI and
I keep saying it's
local
Thomas
law
Crooks to go a
enforcement,
video
they're
going around as
encouraging
if Thomas
people
Crooks,
who
the
may
video
have
of Thomas
been
Crooks
at that
saying is not
rally
him.
to call in, to provide any
Dude,
other cell phone video that
it's
they
a
might
random
have taken,
person saying that that's their name. Please stop.
potentially know who might have been that shooter, to come forward
What
and
is
to help with
happening?
this investigation. And I think that we're just getting an incredible look, certainly a first look, I should say, at the massive
guy's
scale
dressed as
of
the
this
Wall.
investigation that is underway
that's
right
a
now.
famous
From
guy.
the
That's a
federal
good
level
costume.
to
That's a
the
famous
local
Trump guy.
level
Like
in
Trump
Western
has like a lot of
Pennsylvania.
famous fans.
Back to you.
And he would like fly all
No
around.
question,
to the
Danny Freeman.
rallies.
As we noted earlier, the FBI is now leading that investigation. And to Danny's point, there were a lot of eyes and ears in the audience there, some of them taking videos of this. And we're seeing one of those right here now. It's another angle of Saturday's shooting. The video itself does not show a lot, but it's what you hear that is more interesting. Take a look, listen to what people are saying prior to the shooting and during it.
And look what happened to us. We've seen this so many times.
Show the TMZ video, bro. That shit is way crazier. Dude, that's also wild. They are like saying he's got a gun, and it takes a while for them to shoot the guy. Like, I feel like they tried everything. They tried everything in their power to physically stop this from happening.
He's on top of the roof. Don't go over there. He's on the roof, buddy.
He's gonna blow his head off.
He's dead. I just seen his hair go up. They shot him in the head. He's dead.
Well, if they hit anybody over there.
Yinzers are so funny.
A number of shots.
I thought that was us.
Look at their act.
No,
Listen to
that
their
was him.
accent.
The first two shots were him.
Oh, a big number of shots.
What did you call them? Yinzers?
Yinzer.
Yinzer.
Butler's not Yinzers.
He's right there on the roof. Just on the other side of the I believe the activist dispatched are much more.
Part of what that video highlights is that prior to the shooting, there were people just outside the security cordon at that event who saw
I'm from Pittsburgh, and we don't
someone
claim
on
these
top
Butler
of the
people.
building, someone who appears to have been the
Yinzers are
shooter,
from Pittsburgh,
and were attempting to
Pittsburghians.
warn police about it before those shots were
Nah,
fired. Of course,
Butler is
that video
deep,
here when the
Yinzer.
shots are
Ignore
fired,
that
and those same
jag-off.
people witnessing when the shooter was taken out. From there, we go to another angle. It shows a different angle, but a revealing perspective. What you're looking at here appears to be Secret Service counter snipers on a roof of the building just behind where Donald Trump was speaking. And you can see them reacting to something off camera.
Kaya, you are being annoying.
In fact, the sniper's gun, the weapon, jerks upward right there at the moment of the first shots. And then you see them firing their weapons as those Secret Service members rushed onto the stage to bring the former president, push him to the ground for safety. Of course, this moments after they were
showing
hit.
this footage last time.
The point of showing that video there is it appears
we got nothing to talk
that
about
the
now.
counter snipers were at least looking in the direction of the shooter prior to the shots being fired. Retired FBI agent, CNN law enforcement contributor Steve Moore joins me now. And Steve, it's good to have you on. You've been in law enforcement.
Someone said, what is the Australian perspective of this incident? I don't know. It's crazy. Your country's insane.
I remember when it happened, though. Like, the second it happened, my first instinct was just like, someone cares this much about the election. You know, it's just, it feels like they've got these two, like, dog shit candidates. Someone's like, I got to kill this one. I don't know. It's just baffling.
Can't read chat.
Yeah, you guys too fast. Can you guys stop typing for a little bit?
Does this make you want to go back to Australia? A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm slightly scared there's going to be like a coup. Like it's another civil war.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, we filmed Sneaker Con. We don't need to be here anymore.
All right, y'all. I don't know. I think
I
it's
love it
time
all.
for me to get out of here.
Oh, it's too fast. It's too fast.
We don't watch.
So-and-so. They
all
don't
this
just
shit.
say, you know, over to your left or over to your right. They've got that entire area gridded out. So they might
There's off the back of
say,
his
you know,
plane
Area
that we knew
5
he
or
did take with him
G2 or
tonight,
whatever.
as we see it
And
now
so
on our screen.
They were turning
the plane he did
their
take with him tonight
attention to him.
Pittsburgh,
What
and
I
we
don't
expected
know-
him to take back tonight
blame it on their
at some
grids?
point
Yeah,
before all of this happened
The fact that
to
everyone
New
was
Jersey. But
pointing
the
at him, what-
first footage of Donald Trump anywhere after we saw him rushed into that motorcade in Butler, Pennsylvania, about 6 hours ago now.
All of those appropriate caveats noted, and I am told, in fact, Garrett, just moments ago, that in fact that was taken tonight, just recently. Garrett Hake, thank you very much. Again, the first look of the former president walking off the plane, as Garrett notes, under his own power there, giving a wave to the folks who have gathered nearby. I want to go to Kelly O'Donnell now, our senior White House correspondent, because we've also seen, Kelly, President Biden deplane as he has made his way back to Washington tonight. And as we have some of these questions now about the investigation moving forward, worth noting that the president is set to be briefed tomorrow by his top aides. He's obviously already heard from them tonight about what has happened.
And in just the last couple of minutes, the president's motorcade has returned back here to the White House. So he is now back at the official residence, having traveled from his Rehoboth Beach, Delaware home in the last hour or so, and then traveling by motorcade from Joint Base Andrews to the White House. So the president is now back here, choosing to come back to Washington after these events involving the former president. He spoke with him by phone. They made that personal connection earlier tonight. And aides have not described what the nature of the contact was, but the president himself had earlier said that he wanted to reach former President Trump and connect with him directly. They have done that now. The president has been briefed by a number of officials through the evening, and by being back at the White House tomorrow, he can do those in person if that's the way it unfolds, but he can certainly have additional updates from, for example, the FBI director, the Secret Service director, and so forth, some of whom would be in Washington, others elsewhere, and they do the video conferences. So what a long and difficult day it has been. And now we see with this new video posted by Margot Martin, the former president is moving under his own power, heading to wherever he will spend the night, and the current president is now back and in the White House. Hallie?
Kelly, thank you very much. I want to go back to Evie Poumpouras, that former Secret Service agent who is joining us now, who's been with us through this coverage. And Evie, there is obviously a critical couple of days to come, several months to come, clearly, after this historic night in American politics. It is reverberating around the world. We know that the Republican National Convention is set to kick off in less than 48 hours on Monday in Milwaukee. The question, of course, becoming what changes on the security posture there? What would you expect based on your experience with the agency moving forward?
I expect security to go up everywhere, not just for the RNC, but for all protectees. Here's the concern now: copycats. When something like this happens, first of all, this rarely happens. The last time we saw an assassination attempt like this was Ronald Reagan. That was decades ago. So now here we are where this has happened. The issue and concern with copycats is when someone sees this and they see that it can be done, other bad actors or people who are thinking about something like this will say, oh, if this person can do it, perhaps I can. So now there's that concern. How many other people are going to try to do something like this? So you're going to have a lot more security at the RNC. And look, at the RNC, it's not just the president. You have so many other individuals there who have their own protection. It might not be Secret Service protection, but it can be representatives, other officials. So you've got a lot of people in that area. Now, the one thing I will say with the RNC is it is a closed, confined space. Whenever you do advances or whenever you do open rallies, and I've done them, they are extremely stressful because you're out in the open. There's only so much you can control. And as much manpower as you request, there are variables outside of your hand. Now, at the RNC or anytime you do a closed, confined area, it's closed, you set up your magnetometers, you set up your perimeter, and now you know everybody who's coming in is clean. You don't have that open air exposure, those line of sight issues, but you're definitely going to see a ramp up in security. Secret Service also had their hands full now. Not only is this a campaign year, which is already super stressful, super busy, everybody is tapped out, everybody is working around the clock. You're going to have new protectees coming in at the RNC. President Trump is expected to announce who his vice president's going to be, so that team's going to come in to start to do protection there. In addition to that, you have your other protectees. So this is going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be an intense few months on top of the investigation, on top of the Secret Service looking at what happened here. Did we have, and again, I don't want to speak because we don't know what's going on, but again, how did this happen? What assets were requested by the agent on the ground? Were the correct assets requested? Did that agent get all the assets requested? If not, why? And then on goes the trail. So they really got so many things going on. So you're definitely going to see everything super amped up. And look, don't forget, it's not just the Secret Service. As we saw from the press conference before, PSP plays a role. Secret Service, you have to think of them like they're the conductor of an orchestra. They're the ones taking the lead. But you have local police departments stepping in, you have state police stepping in. So at the RNC taking place at Milwaukee, you're going to have all those local entities coming in because for them, they also don't want anything to happen. It's kind of like not on my watch.
Evie, thank you so much. I want to bring in now our NBC News law enforcement analyst, Carmen Best. She has been watching the coverage. And Carmen, I'm wondering where this goes, in your view, next. Obviously, you've heard Evie lay out the steps that the investigators will have to take moving forward, as there are a series of activities set to come on the horizon that the former president will be a part of.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that have to be considered here. Certainly, with this assassination attempt on former President Trump, any future events, whether they involve him or any political parties, will have to be looked at. There's always, as was mentioned earlier, the potential for copycats. There's also the potential for retaliation in some ways, depending upon how people perceive what the motive was. We don't know that yet, but what the motive was for our suspect who did the shooting tonight. So there are a lot of considerations. There will be a lot of ramped up effects for all of the future events, leading up to and probably even past our next election here.
Carmen, I'm going to ask you to stand by for a second. I want to go to our NBC News investigative correspondent, Tom Winter, who's been following this, who's been tracking this, who's been working his sources as this moves forward. And Tom, from the perspective of the investigation into the suspected shooter here, we know this person is dead. We know this person is in roughly his 20s, around 20 years old, from Pennsylvania. There is obviously a full court press now, presumably on this person's family members, on people who knew him, trying to understand what the motive may be. Investigators at that news conference we just watched wouldn't touch that. They didn't want to go near that because they said they just didn't have enough information yet to share.
That's right, Hallie. And as a matter of fact, if the name that we have, we did send one of our colleagues, Shaq Brewster, to that location. There's a significant law enforcement presence outside the address that is believed to belong to this individual. As you said, age approximately 20, from Pennsylvania, and if in fact this is the person, not a particularly long drive from where this occurred here today. This is, the FBI is calling it, an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. So that's what we know tonight. One of the things that happened here, we were told, and now the FBI has said on the record, that this individual did not have an ID on them. And so they're trying to use biometrics, think fingerprints, think potentially DNA, think certainly facial ID recognition to make sure that they have the right person, and also any sort of search warrant on a residence could help confirm that as well. I am poring over this individual's background and their history. I know law enforcement agencies up and down the East Coast are doing the exact same thing. Nothing initially sticks out. If this is in fact the shooter, there's no particular post, no manifesto that's been placed out there. Nothing we are seeing right now points to whatever it was that drove this individual to get on top of that roof today, approximately 150 yards from the presumptive Republican nominee, and start firing. And so obviously that's the reason why the FBI says we don't know exactly what the motive is, because that's all information that they're going to try and gather. So that's where the investigation stands right now. There's going to be a separate inquiry here, which is an inquiry into how this happened today from a security perspective. And we've been showing a map of where this individual was based on social news video we've been able to gather and photos that people took and posted and that we've reviewed. And as you can see, approximately 150 yards, roughly, between the roof of a company on the left and the stage on the right where the former president was. Now, as you and I mentioned earlier, this is a Google Earth shot. It's a moment in time, so you're not seeing the whole apparatus of the security that would have been there, and the stands and the press risers where we set up our cameras. So this would have looked different. The question is, did this individual have a clear line of sight from that rooftop to the stage where the former president was? And if so, how were they unnoticed? And should that area have had a more different or more robust law enforcement presence? Obviously, serious questions will be asked. There's pressure already in D.C., and there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Secret Service to put that out there. And then, as it's been alluded to by the former U.S. Secret Service agent who you've been speaking with, as well as our law enforcement analyst, Carmen Best, this changes everything. We knew we were looking at serious threats over the last several months, that we were going to be looking at several threats, serious threats, obviously through the election. We know what the political rhetoric and temperature is in this country, and now you've had an attempted assassination of the Republican nominee, or the presumptive one, in a former president of the United States. This will be as serious as it gets from a security perspective going forward for all these politicians. And that's going to be a significant concern and a significant drain on law enforcement. Police departments are down in staffing. They help out the U.S. Secret Service. The U.S. Secret Service has, is not an infinite manpower organization, so they rely on law enforcement to help them. The drain on law enforcement as these two candidates traverse the country trying to make their case to be elected is going to be enormous. And then I think there's going to have to probably be a serious look at other elected officials across the country and what type of protection needs to be thought about there. It is a dark night, whatever you may think about the former president. It is a dark night for the country, period, and law enforcement has serious concerns this evening.
Tom Winter, thank you. Garrett Haake is with us as well. And Garrett, as I listen to Tom talk, he talks about obviously other elected officials, other politicians. And right now, tonight, there is a moment politically of near unity here with widespread condemnation of political violence on both sides of the aisle, as we are seeing a lot of reaction from here in Washington, but also around the world, from Israel to Ukraine and beyond. Garrett.
That's right. We've certainly seen that condemnation of political violence, but with it has come a fair share of finger pointing, Republicans blaming those on the left for stirring political violence, Democrats responding that Republicans had sort of brought this moment to the forefront through their own calls for political violence. Donald Trump talking about the attacks on Nancy Pelosi's husband, for example. A lot of back and forth along with the calls to tamp down such language. But in the meantime, you are also hearing from folks all across the world, everyone from Vladimir Zelensky to prime ministers from Europe and across the world, expressing their sadness at this moment, their relief that the former president has survived this attack. And I think beneath all that, the question of how did we get here and how much further will this go? In Washington, we know one of the directions it will go is towards investigation. Already we've seen letters sent to the director of the U.S. Secret Service asking her to appear before a Republican-controlled House committee the Monday after next. So I think what you're liable to see here in Washington and across the country is a major focus on this attempted assassination through the Republican convention next week, and then perhaps beginning with congressional hearings as early as the week following that. There have been calls from some of Donald Trump's allies in the Senate as well for that body to investigate this attack. So, Hallie, we are so much closer to the beginning of this story than the end, and I think it's quite clear from those outpourings of support from the traffic online that the whole world will be watching to see where this all goes.
Garrett, thank you. Stand by. To that point, I want to go to Evie Poumpouras, former Secret Service agent. And when Garrett talks about, Evie, those moments that we expect to see potentially on Capitol Hill, possibly as soon as later this month, after the Republican National Convention, it will be the Secret Service in the hot seat.
It's going to be the Secret Service director, so that's Kimberly Cheadle. So she's going to go there, and they're going to ask questions. I think the basics, it's going to be the basic. How did you do the advance? What security plan was put in place? Now, the individuals that go out to do a security advance, it typically depends. You usually get, I think maybe for domestic, and I want to be careful as to how much I reveal, but you may get up to several days. So you'll go to a place, so we have this area here in Pennsylvania. They will send an agent out. It's called a site agent. That site agent is going to do an assessment. Where's the president going to go? Where are they speaking? Am I indoors? Am I outdoors? How many people are we looking at? And then they're going to set up that perimeter. Where should that perimeter go? They design it. How many magnetometers do I need? They work with local and state officials to get the manpower they need. So they're going to look at first the security plan that was put in place. Was it a good locked-in security plan? Then they're going to look at what resources was asked of this agent. And I can completely see them, see Congress and others subpoenaing to see if is there email correspondence between the agents on the ground and headquarters. What are they asking for? Did they get what they asked for? And that's going to be the second component. Did the agents on the ground get what they asked for? Did they get the manpower that they needed? Then the next step is going to be what happened the day of the event. Did everybody perform as they were supposed to perform? Did Counter Sniper do their job? Did the agents on the ground do their job? What was missed? Was it local police? Again, you know, it's so early to tell because I know the agency that has responsibility, yes, it is the U.S. Secret Service. The thing is they don't do it alone. And so they have other entities in place, local law enforcement, state police that also help them. So there will be an assessment there. Did something happen there? It's going to be all these different layers. So the directors are going to have to come in prepared and ready because they're definitely going to be asking very hard questions.
Evie Poumpouras, former Secret Service agent. Evie, we're glad to have your expertise here on a night like this when there have been many fast-moving developments. And again, just to remind folks where we stand now, you are looking, of course, at that image now seen around the world of the former president raising his fist after having been shot by a bullet that he says pierced his right ear in an assassination attempt. The investigation ongoing. The suspected shooter dead, as is one other rally goer, one person who had simply showed up to this rally in Butler, Pennsylvania to support former President Trump. Two other people attending were badly hurt. I want to go to Garrett Haake now, who has covered the Trump campaign. And Garrett, even after this moment, we expect, of course, to hear at some point from the former president himself. That will be extraordinarily notable when he does choose to come in front of a camera to speak. And then after that, the Republican convention in Milwaukee, just a day and a half away.
Yeah, Hallie, it's incredibly striking because the next time we might hear from the former president could be him announcing who his vice presidential selection would be, someone who would also be immediately wrapped in a protective bubble by the U.S. Secret Service, now in the spotlight across the country and across the world for how this event tonight could happen. We spent the last 2 weeks talking about an unprecedented moment in Democratic politics. We're now there for the Republicans.
Garrett Haake, thank you very much. That concludes our NBC News special report. We're going to have seamless coverage picking up right now on our streaming network, NBC News Now, as well as on MSNBC, online at NBCnews.com. And we're preparing for a special edition of the Today Show tomorrow morning. For all of us here at NBC News, thank you for watching. I'm Hallie Jackson. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Chris Jansing.
Hello, I am Chris Jansing, bringing you continuing breaking news coverage of the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania. NBC has learned the shooter has been tentatively identified. Senior law enforcement officials say the gunman was a 20-year-old man from Pennsylvania. Secret Service killed the suspect at the scene.
Not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was.
At this time, we have no reason to believe that there is any other existing threat out there.
That was from a briefing just a short time ago. Here's what we do know. Donald Trump was injured in the right ear when the gunman opened fire on the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania. In a statement, he said he was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper right part of his right ear, describing a whizzing sound and hearing shots. Two rally attendees were critically wounded. Pennsylvania's governor says Trump has left the area where the shooting occurred, and Trump's campaign says he looks forward to joining the RNC convention in Milwaukee tomorrow. President Biden has spoken to Mr. Trump and has left Delaware a day early. He is now back at the White House. Mr. Biden will receive an updated briefing on the investigation in the morning. Let's bring in Dasha Burns, who is in Butler, Pennsylvania. And Dasha, I can only imagine the chaos that ensued. It is still a crime scene there around the area where the shooting occurred. What can you tell us from on the scene right now?
Well, Chris, you've covered shootings before. I've covered shootings before. Unfortunately, as reporters in modern day America, it has become not uncommon. However, what's different here, certainly for me and for our team, usually we are rushing to the scene in the aftermath. In this case, our crew, Serkan, Henry, Bianca, Jake, we were all here. We witnessed those moments. I was just getting off camera. I was starting to walk down from the press riser, which is typically in the very center of these Trump rallies. When I heard those pop, 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 pop sounds, my initial thought, this is fireworks. That's all this is. And then started to realize this might be something more. Bianca and I, my producer, we took cover. We felt those moments alongside those thousands of people that were there as part of this rally. It went from confusion to fear to then, as we were still taking cover, hearing the crowd cheer, which we now know happened when the former president raised up his fist in the air, in that image that has now become an iconic moment in this tragic day. We then got back up on the riser and started reporting, started giving a sense of the scene. The crowd was there for quite some time before security really started to usher everyone out. Unless you were right front and center, it wasn't clear exactly what had happened. But Chris, as we got ourselves to safety here, we've been talking for the last several hours. We're in a parking lot right now outside of the venue, a parking lot that was filled with thousands and thousands of cars. Now, of course, it's empty. We've been talking to eyewitnesses, people who were in that small area where they could see the former president get struck, and where they could, unfortunately, some of the people I talked to see the others who were injured and one person who was killed. I spoke to a man named Joseph who was just yards away from the gentleman who unfortunately took a fatal wound today. He actually helped carry him from the site. He said it was horrific, graphic, awful to describe. A woman named Vanessa was watching the former president as he pointed to a screen. Typically, it takes him a while to get into sort of the nitty-gritty of the issues. Oddly enough, today, he very early on had a chart put up on the screens to the left and to the right of him when that bullet grazed his ear. Vanessa, the woman who told me her account, she said if he had waited to move his head, if he hadn't moved his head at that very moment, that bullet could have landed in a far more dangerous, potentially fatal place. At this point in time, we know that the former president was recently on his plane or getting off of his plane. His aide, Margot Martin, posted a photo of this on Twitter. We can't confirm for certain where he was getting off his plane. I keep looking at my phone to ensure that that's the latest that I have for you. Another bit of reporting, the former president has authorized a GoFundMe page for the victims and the families of the victims who were injured or killed today. As we all are trying to come to terms with what we just witnessed and what that is going to mean for this country, for this election, for this campaign. Of course, the Republican National Convention starting on Monday. It's possible that that is the first time we will hear from the former president, an event that in itself has been a security concern, has been an intensive security operation. All of that now heightened, of course, and so many of the people that I've talked to today, Chris, are beside themselves, are just shocked that our politics has come to this point where they were coming today to a campaign rally. They were excited to see the former president. The music was blasting. People were buying merchandise, eating food, and then suddenly this completely turned into something that none of us, when we go into these rallies, when we go through the intensive security procedures, none of us think is going to happen. And unfortunately, today it did. Chris?
And you talked about the fact that you and I have covered many shootings, and certainly we have seen in the immediate seconds following a shooting, it is often confusion. People will freeze sometimes in a state of shock. You described hearing what you thought might be fireworks. I've heard other people say, oh, it sounded to me like a car. We even heard the president say, former President Trump say, it wasn't really until he felt something on his ear and he knew that he was bleeding, that he had a sense of what was really happening. But I wonder, in terms of the politics of this and the divisiveness in this country, if you're hearing from the people there what we're hearing from President Biden, through many politicians, through the editorial board of the New York Times, we have to figure out a way to have these conversations without it turning violent. We have to bring down the temperature.
Chris, it's really been a mix. And one thing that took our team aback right in the aftermath, those moments where we were getting back up on the press riser after hearing those shots, then those shots stopped and people just ran up to report the news as quickly as possible. Some people were evacuating. Some people were remaining in position. There were, I would say, dozens of rally goers who came up to the press risers and started to scream at the press, started to blame us for what happened, feeling like the media was at fault for fanning the flames of division. And it got heated. And you can imagine emotions are absolutely heightened after something like this happens. There's still confusion. We didn't have any of the details confirmed that we have now, but that was a reaction from some of the people coming up to where we were on those press risers. And then as I was talking to people here in this parking lot, as people were had a moment to come up for air to start to process what they just witnessed, I did hear a lot of people say, this is devastating, that, you know, the country has come to this place. We should come together. This isn't Republican versus Democrat. This is an American issue. Political violence should not be something that happens on this country's soil. So a mix, but I do worry, Chris, seeing that initial reaction from some of those people that some might want this to be a moment to come together, and others might not. Chris.
Dasha Burns, thank you for that. We really appreciate it. It has been
actually, this started off as a scary stream, but it turned out to be a good stream because Donald Trump survived. It was inches. He got to thank God to be alive today. Wow, it was close. Let's calm the temperature down. This is what I've been scared of, and hopefully it calms down now. I think everybody realizing there needs to be a calming down and a coming together moment. Tomorrow I will see y'all early in the morning when we get back to our next stream. Thank y'all for watching. There has been a lot of mess ups. Our stream isn't working right perfectly, but tomorrow we'll be back and hopefully everything's working. I'll see y'all tomorrow. This is DJ Grumlock. This is Stay Woke TV. Y'all boys stay woke out here. We out of here. Deuces.
Very difficult day for you as well. I want to bring in NBC News justice reporter Ryan Riley. And Ryan, we mentioned the press conference that happened earlier. A couple of things I think that are notable. One is that they were unequivocal. They call this now an assassination attempt. They also say there's no reason to believe that there is any other existing threat. But tell us the latest you're hearing and what your headlines are from that press conference.
Yeah, really remarkable press conference and really remarkable moment. Of course, it looks like we were just inches away here from an extreme tragedy, and this will be a marker in American history, and those images are going to stick with people who lived through it for a very, very long time. For what we heard from the FBI is that they have identified an early suspect. The name has not been publicly put out there. There's been a lot of work on the back end trying to run down some of the details about this individual. We know that he is a 20-year-old, what is publicly available, 20-year-old from Pennsylvania itself, but they're not putting out a lot of info at this moment. What they are seeking is a lot of any video that people have from that day, because they're going to be reconstructing this and seeing what went wrong. I think the big question to me me is what form this report and this investigation by the FBI is going to take publicly, right? Because we have a situation where a suspect is dead. There's not going to be a prosecution. This isn't going to end up in a court. So instead, what we're going to end up with is some sort of written product, and how that gets disseminated and the timeline for which that gets disseminated, I think is really an open question here. If you remember a few years back, there was an attempted or rather, there was a shooting of a congressional baseball practice that targeted Republican members of Congress. And the FBI investigated that, but because the suspect was dead, that really wasn't put out in a form that was really satisfying, I think, to a lot of the victims of that attempted of that shooting, rather. So I think that it's a real question how the FBI is ultimately going to put this product out and what the timeline is going to be for that to answer a lot of these questions that the public has right now. We've already seen a ton of conspiracy theories bubbling up online, and of course, the quickest way to tamp those down is to get out as much information that is available as quickly as possible. So when information is withheld, the longer it's withheld, it can really build up. I'd also say that the FBI has, since I would say the Boston Marathon bombing and then transformed to January 6th, really been better about collecting digital evidence. After the Boston Marathon bombing, a lot of people weren't making calls. They were sending in raw materials to the FBI to be able to put that together and really find out exactly what happened. The same thing after January 6th, and especially I would say in the last 3.5 years since that attack on the Capitol on January 6th, we've seen the FBI improve upon their collection of information, because even though there isn't a lot of mystery about who the shooter was, apparently. Obviously, that name isn't something we're reporting at this moment, but there doesn't appear to be a lot of mystery there. But I think the failures are really going to be something that is going to have to be reconstructed, and what sort of accountability there's going to be within the Secret Service, and how that interplay is going to play out between the FBI and the Secret Service. Chris,
tell us again, based on your experience, some of the things that those videos can help them determine. We can all say, anybody who's ever been to a Trump rally or any rally from any presidential candidate in modern times, people have their phones up. I heard a number of people on our air who were there saying, this is my first Trump rally. They want to memorialize that. They're taking pictures. They're rolling video. Donald Trump is up there speaking. Some of them were very close. What are the kinds of things that now this more sophisticated operation can look at and potentially find, even though, as you point out rightly, there doesn't seem to be much question about who the shooter was?
Right. And I mean, you might end up with footage coming out down the line that actually just shows the full shooting down, right? If you look at somebody who was maybe on the right side of the stage, had their camera pointed at the right place, it's just because they aren't on, X or Twitter, or maybe haven't posted it to social media. Maybe that's buried in their camera roll somewhere. So all of this footage can be valuable in some way in this sort of event where there's not a lot of mystery about who the shooter was. I think even then it is still can be valuable just to sort of tamp down on a lot of these conspiracy theories. But I really just don't know what sort of form that's ultimately going to come out. And I think we'll see a trickle of footage come out even today, 3.5 years after January 6th. We're still seeing new footage come out from from that incident, most of it in the form of body camera footage that's often released through the courts. So I think that, this is an event that we'll be learning about for a while, and the pieces will sort of continue to come together. But already we've gotten a good sense of, where this took place, as this reporting is all played out. The distance, there's already been, the New York Times had a sound analysis that used the microphone from that, and then had an expert come in and say this is about how far away the shot was. So there's all these really incredible things I think that open source researchers can do, and the FBI is sort of catching up with in the 21st century to really piece this together and give a story about what exactly happened that day. Chris.
Ryan Riley, thank you so much. Your experience is invaluable with this. Also joining me now, retired FBI Special Agent Kenneth Gray. He is now a distinguished